Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark, you want to take roll call?
Yes.
Bruce isn't in, I guess, right?
Mayor Pro Tem Bisbal.
Here.
Councilmember Gazelle.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick.
Here.
Councilmember Alice.
Here.
Councilmember Seeley.
Present.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Mayor Kadzierski.
Here.
First time I had to say that. I think since, Bruce hasn't missed a meeting.
I understand he's out of the country, so hopefully it's something fun. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the April 16th regular meeting on pages 4 to 8. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the next item is we're, again, filing it for the public domain. It's some various boards, committees, and commission minutes. And I did get an email from Councilman Seeley. I guess when Tom transcribed this, Mark, I think he made some mistakes in terms of who attributed and said what comments. So I would like to revise it.
Hold them.
Okay,
Till we get
we'll
some
accept it, but then we'll
suggestions,
revise
yeah.
it before the next meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Do you have any public comment?
It's my understanding that the Improvement Foundation is having a fundraising contest using the Shores new roadway and parking space at the park, at OCS Park. Is that correct?
You mean as far as a fundraiser?
Yes,
Yes.
it is correct. Okay, well, any money that the Improvement Foundation gets from all of this should come directly to the city. Because my tax money put in that roadway at considerable cost, by the way. And I want the money that they collect by using a fundraiser on my back to come directly to the city for us to use as we see fit. I'm sure Public Service can use some money to buy some things that they may need. DPW can probably help fix some of our things, whatever. I don't think that they should keep that money and dole it out as they see fit. It should come to us with no strings attached. In fact, I spoke to a number of neighbors who were not even aware that this was going on. And they were very upset when they heard my explanation that they were collecting money as a fundraiser. And I said, I wasn't sure if they were going to keep the money or not. I said, but it should come right to our coffers. My other question was, and they asked me too, who approved it?
I think it went, Gloria, to the park committee first and vetted by the park committee, and then ultimately, I think the council.
No, I never heard the council.
Didn't come to us to that.
Well, it was an Improvement Foundation activity.
All right, so are they a city within a city?
No,
I mean,
no.
well, then how can they get something done without approval by the council that affects all of the residents?
If I can answer that as liaison, I can, to the foundation. In the last less than year, they've given the city $235,000 in new money, $100,000 towards that road you're talking about. And the idea came up as something that the Yacht Club has been doing for a few years as a fundraiser for their sailing program. The purpose of the foundation as a 501c3, the only entity that they can gift money to is the city. So that money will directly go to the city.
And then we can decide what happens to it?
Absolutely. So far this year, just since their new year started, they've given us a $65,000 landscape that's about to be installed over at the park, and then given us $5,000 towards the destroyed landscaping as a result of the high lake levels. So that's almost $70,000 in just the last couple of months. So we thought a way to partner with the foundation to help them create a new revenue stream so that they can grant more to the city, that we could do these two fundraisers. The raffle was, the drawing was on Monday, yesterday, and unfortunately, we didn't have a real great success with it. Our goal was to sell 100 tickets at $100 each, to sell the number one parking spot at the park, and that's a $10,000 fundraiser if they sell all the tickets. And then the naming rights to the road would just, both of these would just be seasonal. And you get a little sign with your family name on it, and then at the end of the season, the sign gets taken down, you get to keep it as a memento, and next year they can do the raffle again. So if they do the two raffles, the potential is $20,000 in new money to the foundation, which will come right back to the city. So we directly benefit from those activities, and it's something fun that the community can do. So
It wasn't very widely publicized because, as I said, a lot of my neighbors had no idea it was going
I
on.
agree, and this was our first attempt, and we didn't give ourselves enough time to do it because we were getting closer to Memorial Day. But there's a plan being put in place so that we can really promote next year's, because we'd love to see us sell all of the tickets so that we can raise the $20,000 and do some of the nice things that we all want to see done in our park and in our city.
Since you mentioned that you've done some things, that little warming shed that we have there by the TP, does the Improvement Foundation donate money for its upkeep? I know you put it up, but I think we had to pay some of it too.
The problem is that their mission doesn't allow them to pay for maintenance costs or employees or anything like that. What they can do is they can donate a specific item.
Okay.
So they've been great about it, and, you know, we can look all around us and see their efforts. The tennis courts, they were a big part of that. The splash pad, the pavilion, the new Toddscape, the old Playscape, the new patio in front of the bathhouse.
I don't want to make our park into Disney World.
We
I'd
understand.
like a park to be a park.
I
A
understand.
lot of green space, not things everywhere. I know that some people say, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we did this? Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, it would be nice, but our park is too small.
I just hope that answers your question about the raffle.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gloria. Any other questions? Oh, or, public comment, I mean? Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have a real problem with Schroeder Park here. Yeah, I live on Michaud Court. Coming out today, coming here, from Michaud Lane, I was almost hit 3 times. The parking, we do not have parking facilities for this kind of occupation in this park. On Saturday, I think we had, three teams or 3 groups. Unbelievable. They were parking down Michaud Lane. They were parking on Michaud Court. The empty lot on Michaud Court, they ripped up all of the grass by the curb because they parked there. This is a real problem. We don't have a facility like the schools. If these are school groups, or even if they're not, let them go to school groups. We don't have the parking facilities for this. Now that we have gated parking over here, they're not coming there. We have even less parking available. This is a real problem. I walked my dog on Saturday. I could hardly walk on the sidewalk with the number of kids running all over the place, garbage all over, running across from their car that they're parked to the fence, back and forth. I don't know about those storage things by the backdrop, but there were kids pounding on those. Unbelievable. I went up and I said, is there any parent that's with that child? The sounds almost sounded like crashing. A grandmother came up, because these games not only are for the kids and their parents, but you have the grandparents. We can't bring our dogs in Schroeder Park. But what do I find? These people are bringing their dogs, and they're running up and down the hill, and they're not residents. What is our cost in our bathrooms? I remember when we had this, and the people were using a bathroom in here. This is when we had Kenyon as our manager. It was a disaster. So I don't know what our facilities look like now here either. I know we're charging something for them, but I'm sure it's not covering the upkeep on this. I also, as a psychotherapist, we have little kids. We have no parking signs there. What message are we sending them when their parents are parking there? In fact, I heard a child say, "Oh, there's a sign, no parking." And the parent said, "It's not for us." What? What are we sending a message for the kids? Okay, I know we talked about this before, and I said, we need to have signs about coming into Michaud Lane, authorized vehicles only, because they are parking in front of our driveways. They're parking in front of the hydrants. What happens if we have a fire here? They can't get to the fire hydrants, people, on a Saturday or a Friday or whenever they come with these teams. I'm a retired superintendent. If we have schools that are coming out and using our grounds, that's ridiculous. They need to use the school grounds that we're already paying for, folks, not our private city parks. There's no monitoring of these children in these parks. Parents are dropping their kids off. I saw kids in the wintertime the parents dump them off. They're tumbling down the hill. 3 kids. One kid just fell all the way down. I pulled over, and then 2 other kids came and were kicking him. Where are his parents? They dropped him off. There's no supervision, folks. I don't think that park should be accessible. Maybe we need to put a pass key on that like we have on the dog park, because we don't have any supervision. They're able to do whatever they want. We found people behind the hill. I don't know why we have that hill. I really don't. I know when I first moved here, there was a plan that we were going to start cutting that hill down. It's a real problem on what is found behind the hill. Needles, alcohol, liquor, small liquor bottles that you get from the airport, airlines. Hey, this is our community. It is not Ford Field. Okay?
Well, Jan, you raised some good points. I was here for the town hall, one of your neighbors, I see Donna back there, and we walked through the neighborhood. We walked, and one of the lieutenants that was on duty walked through the park and told the parents that were there to move their cars. There is a sign, and it's a little bit obscured by a tree that's nearby, and so we need to be more vigilant. I understand. Your neighbor, Donna, got in a car accident last year, was it, Donna? So it's something that we're very concerned with.
When they're parking all the way, yeah, there are some cones there. Guess what? People are moving the cones as I was coming out of Michaud Lane. They just got out of the car, moved the cones. What did I see this weekend on Sunday? The cones and the strip of thing flying on the sidewalk and in the street.
Well, that's why we limited the soccer field, in terms of having a field.
I think we need to start limiting, period. I don't know how many teams we allow. Start cutting to get to 0. I'm sorry. There's some other ways to use that park. We could put a resident run and walk area around there. There's lots of things we can do for the residents. We're paying for that park. I don't know of any. I went to 5 cars. There wasn't one resident in 5 cars with 17 children. I'm not interested in that. The noise level, people, on a weekend, that's kind of the time when we invite our friends, we get together with families, and there's the noise level is obtuse here. That's not what we want. We have a quiet, wonderful family community. It is not a public, it's not Metro Park,
Okay.
okay?
But thanks for bringing that to our attention.
There was, I think there was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, Ted, on the budget, on that, I remember when you were running for mayor, you said that you would go over everything with kind of a fine-tooth comb. And I wonder if you've done that.
Well, we do a line-by-line review of the budget. I sit down even with the auditors, they interview me. I had a 3-hour meeting. Rhonda thought that I was taking the whole day away. I mean, she walked out, she said, "What happened?" But going through the different activity accounts, the different line by line, we went right through the budget.
Because there seems to be that there are a lot of ways that you could cut, a lot of things that are done without authorization from the council. I don't know if you've looked at those things or, not.
Well, we've had some very extensive discussions regarding different costs and potentials for savings, future savings for recurring items.
Okay. I think, oh yeah, I just wanted to mention again, on Sunday, there was a policeman parked on Michaud Lane, and I had asked him about that. He said he was there because someone was putting the cones in their car and parking.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, there's no supervision. We're wide open, folks.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jan. Any other public comment? If not, oh. Sorry, Donna.
I'm just addressing the same issue that Jan did about the parking on Vernier, and you walked out with me, Ted, to see it. Mr. Seeley pointed out that we put up no parking signs, but I just photographed all the cars parked in front of the no parking signs. They don't, unless we put up barricades to stop them from parking, they won't do it. And my biggest concern is, number one, the safety exiting the street. We can't see to get out onto Vernier at all. Number two is the fire hydrants. I mean, I'm not sure what these fire hydrants serve, but if there is a fire in our neighborhood, they're parked in front of the fire hydrants. And interestingly, when I photographed each of the cars parked in front of each of the no parking signs, when I got to the fire hydrant, the guy came out, jumped in his truck, and moved it. So they know they shouldn't be in front of fire hydrants, but they park there anyway. And God forbid there's a fire in our neighborhood. What are we going to say? Let it burn? We can't. There's a baseball game? I mean, something really needs to be done and reinforced by the fire hydrants as well as parking up to the corner of our streets. There are cones tonight, and I pulled over and I thanked the police officer who turned his car and made sure those cones were there. I thanked him, and he said that he is aware of it and will continue to be diligent about it for the rest of the season. So whoever spoke to our police department, I appreciate that. And I told him that also, but there has to be a barricade there. And I don't know what we're going to do about the fire hydrants. I mean, I don't know what that service is, but they park in front of them. Both east and west of Michaud, they park in both, on the weekends when the issue is, a lot of times on the weekends, there are 2 soccer games as well as a baseball game, and we can't accommodate that parking. There's just no parking. So it's an issue because it's not just the parents that come with the children, it's grandparents, it's neighbors, it's a lot of cars. So when we have 2 soccer games as well as a baseball game, it becomes a big parking issue. And my concern is the fire hydrants. We need to be aware and make sure that they're not parked in front of those. And they know it, because when I approached it, he jumped in the truck. So, I appreciate our public safety watching it, but we need to also address the fire hydrant issue. I mean, anywhere else, you'd get a huge ticket or fine. Anywhere in the United States, you're gonna get a fine. And why they can park here, I don't know. Why is that? So, we need to address that with public safety also. I appreciate the fact that they're not parked up to the corner so we can see to get out of the street. But it's the fire hydrants also that need to be addressed.
Thank you, Donna.
Thanks.
We'll be more vigilant.
Go
I
ahead.
have public comment, so do I say it now, or do I wait?
Well, you
until
could
my
make your comment now.
I can make my comment now. I'm going to piggyback off of Dr. Pemberton and Donna's comment. I too live on Regal Place, so it's off of Michaud. This parking already. Number one, on Saturday, they were not just parked past the cones, they were parked into the Michaud intersection. And then they were on both sides of Michaud. If you've ever tried to drive down that street, I can't get my car, and I don't drive a big SUV, I can't get my car in between. How in the world would we ever get an ambulance down that street? We won't, and we couldn't. And there are signs. So today, I walked here because I knew that there would be no parking because of these people that are here doing their thing in our yard, in our backyard. As I walk and I see no parking at any time, that is not a suggestion. That is a rule. It doesn't say no parking at any time except for soccer and baseball games. And why these people think they can do that? It's because they can do it. Because also too, and I love my public safety department, you all know that I'm their biggest fan. There are 2 police officers trying to make sense of what's going on. Not only are they had some barricades today, but people were parking in between the barricades. Again, that must be a suggestion to them and not a law. But what message is public safety sending to these people when they're just driving around? Get out and give tickets. Now, there was a comment made last week, the baseball game's almost over. I'm sorry, baseball game's almost over, so let them park there? I'm going to address this with the chief later, but again, I'm just saying, it is a hazard. You cannot get out of that street. On Saturday, there was someone across the street on Vernier having yard work done, so there was a pile of mulch in this lane, in the eastbound lane, and there were all these cars in the westbound lane. Now, if you didn't think that that was a cluster mess happening right there all day, you're mistaken. It was. So if anybody's driving back and forth on these streets, it was a hazard. And something's going to happen. Now, I walked back by the park after everybody left their fields. There were chairs laying sideways. There were water bottles everywhere. There were clothes strewn around the park. Again, we are now paying for someone to come and clean that up. Brett's people, either on Monday, if the people haven't come back to claim their items on Saturday night or Sunday, are over there cleaning up. And it is my understanding that we do not charge anything for these groups to use our fields. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're paying our public safety people to police this. 2 cars, 2 out of 3 cars are down here policing people parking on a street that says no parking at any time, free to use our fields.
Yeah, we talked about
Something,
field
that's
use
not
policy,
right.
but
That's not right. I mean, we're looking at cutting cost or doing something, then this is the first place. We're paying Brett's people to maintain those fields. We're paying the chief's people to monitor this parking situation. We don't have the extra money to do all that, to provide a wonderful environment for them to play soccer and baseball.
Well, it seems to me like there's some type of policy not to write tickets. And I think we need to have a meeting to determine whether that is the directive from the chief, because I can tell you that if I park overnight in front of my house, there's a ticket on front of the car. And I parked on the lawn one time the night of a city council meeting. I come out after a 4-hour meeting and I got a ticket on my windshield. So you can imagine how excited I am to know that 100 people a week are parking and not having any penalty for it, especially the people in front of the fire hydrants. They tow a couple of cars and that will end. I mean, we just need to enforce the rules that are in place.
Chief, would you like to make a statement?
Good evening. First of all, one of the initial comments that was made was in regards to Saturday. There was an extensive amount of cars. Unbeknownst to us, they played rain makeup games, and there was a lot of cars, and they were parked everywhere. My officers did the best they could. They sent me a memo on it, and the idea that we don't issue tickets is not true. We will write routinely. We will write overnight parking. We will write hydrants. Those are the hydrants that we need, so we will write them. We were overwhelmed. In regards to the sign, there's two signs on Vernier. One is no parking here to corner, which is from the sign and Brett and I are going to make that more visible. The other sign that says no parking anytime, we specifically have to give those people who are attending the fields, we have to give them that parking. So we put a barrel and we allow them to park along the curb on the north side of Vernier. There is no other choice for us. Now, do we need to cover that sign, or do we need to, I don't know, but we routinely, and those people know that they can park on that. Now, they should not be parking between here to corner on Mishaw, and tonight it was coned off. The other thing is that we have other responsibilities within the community to police, fire, and EMS. So we get there when we can. Oh, yes, Saturday was a mess. I'll give you, because he briefed me on it. So but the idea that we don't issue violations is just not correct. It's because we do.
Okay, I have a couple questions then, Chief. You made the comment, unknown to us. Why was this unknown to you? You're the chief of police here in the city. Why is any activity that is going to require your manpower unknown to you at that point?
Well, the baseball Little League does not report to me. They would report to and I don't even think the city knew that they were doing makeup games. They had 2 games going on in center field.
So who should know that something is happening in our backyard?
Well, we have a schedule. However, they were doing rainout games.
So then they should have clearance to make those
They
up,
should notify
or
us in
they should
advance if they're going to try and
okay.
do that, yes.
And then your other comment was, we have no other choice but to let them park there. What do you mean we have no other choice?
Well, when the fields are full, when there's baseball going on or there's a soccer game on the soccer field before noon, there is no physical other place to park. And now that we're restricting parking at the park.
But is that our responsibility to say, okay, then you can park where it says no parking?
I can't create more parking spaces. We are
Then
just,
let the people worry about where they're going to park. Let them carpool. Let them meet at North and carpool or walk down. But I don't
I mean, if we
understand.
make it unattractive enough, maybe they'll find somewhere else to play.
They're gonna park on your side streets, is what they're gonna do.
Well, they do that now,
That's
so
what
what's
I'm
the
saying.
matter?
They're just
I mean,
gonna
so
make
they
it
just
worse.
keep parking on the side streets
in
now.
regards to Mishaw, we could post one of those sides, no parking, and we can enforce it. But there's a heavy influx on Saturday mornings for those parking spots. If it's the wish of the council that we prohibit 100% parking on Vernier, I'll be more than happy to have my officers enforce it. Plain and simple. We have given it to them over the years. This is an issue that I inherited 8 years ago. And there is no other place to park. And the DPW lot's full, the city lot's full. They can't park across the street. It's similar to a swim meet night. We give them the east lane of Lakeshore because there simply is no other place to put these cars. If there's another plan, I'm all open to it, but I just,
When there's swim meet nights, they park on the lawn, over here, right over here, they're allowed to park on the lawns, they swim meet nights, and also they're supposed to come to water. I mean, those white ones, in parking lots, so they're directed, that if they're told, if you sign up for baseball, that you're not allowed to park on the perimeter, or you will be issued a ticket. Parking is available at Grosse Pointe High School, this is the address, parking is available, in the field, where, right here. Park for swim. Let them know when they sign up, that this is where they can park, and there's no parking on Vernon. Or they will issue, I know.
we will enforce,
They don't get around when they don't park.
we will enforce whatever the wishes of the council are, 100%. as we have.
We'll come up with a plan, chief, and then maybe at the next meeting
No.
or so, or,
No, today. Why the next meeting? By then, the
well, if they're
soccer
parked in
season's
front of a
over.
fire hydrant, they get a ticket,
Those
right?
are routinely enforced.
And here at the corner, they get a ticket.
They just
So,
moved but they didn't.
but
They
the
didn't get
sign's on the
tickets
tree, 'cause I-
Saturday.
There was one car out there I seen, Tina, that had a ticket on it, a white something, because I drove by it 2 times.
Is there some way, you know, the
I'd wait till the next meeting.
temporary
Okay, okay.
barricades that we use, like if somebody's having a party or whatever, or like a block party, if we could put one of those in front of me show with a sign that just says residents only?
It's a public street, and I don't believe,
I'm not
don't
saying
believe
we
you
shouldn't be
Just on
parking on
Saturdays.
Michelle. I'm saying we shouldn't be parking on Vernier. You know, Michelle's a whole, as long as they don't park on both sides of the street, they can park in front of my house. I don't care. That's not my street. You know what I mean? But this is a safety hazard, having almost one lane blocked by parked cars on Vernier.
like I say, this is an old, very old problem that we're revisiting, and I will enforce
well, thanks,
whatever.
chief.
Hold on.
After the signs, because during the weekends is when we have landscapers and other people coming through. And we do not want that kind of parking on either of those streets.
Okay, Jan, let's, during the chief's discussion, public safety, let's bring it up. We have some people here that are waiting for the next agenda item. Thanks for being
Thanks,
patient.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay. Oh, public comment?
And agenda items.
First off, I don't know who spoke earlier, but my name's Tom Ellis. I live in Lockmore. Just want to address a couple of things. First off, I'm on the park committee, so we do work with the Wood Shores Baseball League on this. Some of these kids are our residents, and some of our residents play at the Woods Park too. So it's not like they're interlopers just coming in here. So that's one issue, is that this is a public thing for our kids as well too. But as you mentioned, we need to enforce what we can. And the other thing that we maybe need to be doing, if they're parking in front of a fire hydrant and they get a ticket, tow them. So that's my other suggestion. And my other suggestion is to, and I can do this because there is a fellow who's on our committee who sort of represents the baseball people, and we can communicate with them to make sure they communicate with the baseball people.
I got
To- Okay, to tell the
I think
coaches.
That's a good idea, Tom. Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And also, if I may, I'd like to see, when we have these meetings, I know everyone has opinions, but either to express them up here, but this whole, church thing that's going on is a little too much. So let's just keep a little bit more order.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All right, the next item is the recognition for Full Circle. Would Full Circle like to come forward?
Watch out there.
Sorry. We've already given you a proclamation. But again, we want to give you recognition. We appreciate what you're doing. And Full Circle Foundation is a fully accredited charitable organization working in conjunction with the Grossman Public School System. The foundation mission is to support the activities that foster a sense of self-worth and independence for persons with disabilities such as autism, intellectual disabilities, by providing opportunities to contribute and participate productively in the community. The foundation provides diverse training experiences and independent living skills for those with disabilities in our community. It fosters independence and prepares participants for employment either with local businesses or with one of our other foundation's enterprises. It's the goal of the foundation to provide structured training programs for individuals with special needs to learn and practice skills that will allow them to function productively and contribute to their community. Training programs including the Full Circle Upscale Retail Shop, the Edible Garden, the Laundry Program, the Culinary Skills Program, Internet Skills, and Internship Program. The foundation is dedicated to helping their students gain valuable knowledge and practical experience to assist them in becoming increasingly more dependent and will foster a sense of greater self-confidence. We provided providing training and practice and hands-on experiences. The Full Circle Foundation has worked hand in hand with Coney Island since 2014 and took over full operations and staffing of the Grosse Pointe Trailer Park concession stand at the beginning of the 2016 season. On behalf of myself, the City Council, and the residents of Grosse Pointe Shores, we would like to commend Full Circle and congratulate the students and the entire organization on their outstanding service to the community. Thank you. Let's give them a round.
Mr. Ballmeier, Mayor Kaczynski, and council members and community members, thank you again for another year for allowing us to serve you in the community. We're very, very grateful for that.
And we have some extra ones for people that aren't here. Let's give them another one. Oh, I'm sorry. They're extra. These are extra. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Okay. And our veterans, would you like to come forward here, please?
I think it is, see.
Thanks for waiting so patiently.
Yes.
I agree. Well, this was Bruce's idea.
Yes. I've talked to him already.
Apparently a tradition in Naples, is that right?
I first saw this down in Florida where one of the communities recognized their veterans, their Purple Heart veterans, by designating them a Purple Heart city. And I thought it was a very, very nice gesture. And I know our mayor this summer is planning an activity over at the park. So I made the suggestion to him that we take this opportunity to recognize your service and recognize you for that. And we certainly appreciate it, and we are most grateful that you're here tonight and very proud of the fact that we can be the first Grosse Pointe community to become a Purple Heart city. So thank you again.
General George Washington awarded some of the people during the Revolutionary War that were wounded and never received any type of recognition. So he came up with the cloth heart, Purple Heart, with the word for merit. And eventually that was lost in the history. And right after World War I, General Douglas MacArthur decided to create a medal awarding people that were wounded or killed in action. And in 1932, the Military Order of the Purple Heart was established and chartered by Congress. And we as an organization today are, especially in Macomb County, we're the largest chapter in the state of Michigan. And we have so far created about a dozen or so cities, townships, and make them Purple Heart. And we were glad that year that the city of Grosse Pointe Shores would do this. And it's a great honor on us that we invite this. And I would like to read this right here. And the Military Order of the Purple Heart Special Recognition Award is bestowed with pride in the city of Grosse Pointe Shores, Michigan, for your dedication and support, honoring Americans combat wounded veterans coming to Purple Heart City. And this is presented by the Patriots, Chapter 1818, Military Order of the Purple Heart. This is the name.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Well, what we're doing today is we're going to recognize Grosse Pointe Shores as a Purple Heart city. Thanks to Bruce and for Larry for coming today. As you indicate, the Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration in present use, and was initially created as a badge of military merit by General George Washington in 1782. And the Purple Heart was the first American Service Award and decoration made available to the common soldier, and is specifically awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces who have been wounded or paid the ultimate sacrifice in combat for the declared enemy of the United States of America. Whereas the mission of the military order of the Purple Heart is to foster and harden the goodwill among the combat wounded veteran members and their families, promote patriotism, and support legislative initiatives, and most importantly, make sure we never forget. And so the village of Grosse Pointe Shores has a highly decorated veteran population, including several Purple Heart recipients, and the city appreciates the sacrifices our Purple Heart recipients made in defending our freedom, and believes that it's important that we acknowledge them for their courage and show them honor and support they have earned. So therefore, let it be resolved that myself, as the mayor, the city council, and the village of Grosse Pointe Shores do hereby proclaim the village of Grosse Pointe Shores a Purple Heart city.
Thank you very much.
Wow,
We have,
so
we
nice.
have the city council, or council members that are veterans come around there, please. Let's see your program. Go ahead,
That's really great.
We have a resident too, I see in the back,
Yes,
who's
anybody
veteran.
veterans.
Dr. Siegel.
Would love to come up here,
Who else?
more than welcome.
John, come on, you're a veteran.
Very, very nice.
So cool.
We're going to proudly display this banner here in our
Thank you
city
very
hall,
much.
right next to the American flag.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a big honor.
Give me tell. I got it. I'll take it.
All right, thank everyone for being patient.
That's great.
Oh, our next item is the preliminary plat approval final, item number 9. Deeplands Development Corporation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
It's a dark chocolate.
To the preliminary plat approval, final Deeplands Development, 55 South Deeplands. And the petitioners are here. I'd like to just state that the vote was unanimous. There were many questions that were answered by Mr. Russell and also his attorney, Mr. Gabriel. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Gilbreth. Sorry about that. And of course, our engineering, Mr. Vander Creek. We have a variety of names here that we're supposed to remember, and sometimes we don't. Some of the questions that were asked were discussed about the trees. There were 100 trees, and Mr. Russell stated that the trees will be replaced by the owners also. And he has been doing an extensive amount of plantings and clearing, of course, of dead trees, etc. And the answer was that it will be, again, over probably 100 trees or probably over 100 trees by the time the residents start planting their own trees also. Another question was, which Mr. Gilbreth stated that the case was, the suit was dismissed and that the city is not at all liable for any of this, it would be the developer who would be in court if it should proceed in the circuit court or beyond. Another question that was asked was about the 100-year storm. And Hubble, Roth, and Clark, our engineering center, and Jesse is here to answer any questions on that. That is, he stated the property owner should be required to inspect the retention system on a regular basis, and the city also should do that to check on that, and they could monitor it. Another question was, there was Mr. Ben Best of 50 Fordcroft stated that he is happy that the development is progressing and then new people and young people, I guess we're excluded, young people are moving in with children, and he was in favor of it, and there were no other objections in the public hearing, during the public hearing.
Good summary, Mary, good summary.
And again, I just want to specify that also our city planner agreed that everything was met, and if there are any questions from the council, I believe that, the owners are here, and also the engineering firm and Mr. Galbraith.
I remember the 100-year storm issue came up, whether or not there was a sufficiency of a water retention system. The screening for both I think the east, mostly, I think about the west side, Rich, I think that came up. There's some loose ends clerical issues regarding the creation of a homeowners association, and, that's clerical. That can be accomplished. But I think the fact, I think you answered Dr. Best's question about the homes would not be spec homes, that these would be custom-built,
Right.
Designed homes. So, I
He
think,
also inquired whether or not which ones would be coming up first and what direction they're going. Of course, Mr. Russell answered that whoever buys the lot, that's
Right.
the one that's going. So most people were satisfied with the answers and the questions, and again, the public was heard.
I just have one question. That retention pond, does that go all the way across Lake Sheldon from Deeplands to, does it go all the way along here, or is it just like the first lot or the second lot?
that's the east wall, the east side.
Good evening, Council. Richard Russell. The detention system stops short of what Brett will tell you is the exit or the sewer for the entire city. Goes up an easement that's about, I think it's a 25 or 30-foot easement from the Fordcroft wall towards Deeplands. So there's a 30-foot easement runs east and west.
Runs back in this corner back
No,
here.
yep, you put your finger all the way down at the bottom, now run all the way to the right, all the way down.
Oh.
That's where your sewer goes, that's a sanitary sewer.
Okay.
So except for that, it does, yes, the detention system does run all the way north and south,
Oh, right here?
yes,
The whole length of that?
yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Are there any questions from the public?
Need a motion?
Any questions from the council? If not, this is the third step, Mary. Again, there's been a lot of hearings, a lot of discussions, good summary. At this point, then, I need a motion to approve the preliminary plat approval final from the council.
So moved.
I'm sorry, Brian.
I would ask clarification of that.
Okay.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat final, subject to developer satisfactory compliance with the conditions set forth in the city engineer's report dated May 2, 2019, and the city planner's report dated May 1st, 2019, and the approved minutes of the special planning commission meeting that was conducted on May 7th, 2019.
Okay, well stated.
So moved.
So moved.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So the next item, we're going into a public hearing here regarding our budget.
Planning meeting. One of those.
Oh, wait up. We've lost a few members of our audience.
Chlorotin.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jesse. Okay. All right, the next item is our item number 10, the public hearing. I need a motion to enter into public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. At this point, Bruce, would you like, you and Rhonda, would you like to summarize? Bruce?
Do we have to vote to have, we had a motion, but are we going to vote?
Oh, we motion, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So
Now we're in public
now
hearing.
we're in public hearing.
You're official.
I need the chair to summarize the budget for,
The budget as developed at this point for the upcoming fiscal year represents a carryover of the existing tax rate with no increase proposed. The budget as proposed is balanced with no tax increase for the upcoming year. It reflects the increasing cost for healthcare, wages, utilities, and other items. It also reflects savings in deferred purchases for some vehicles, for replacing retiring employees instead of doing it when we plan, we're going to defer that decision for 6 months. It's basically a carryover of our current fiscal plan. We had some really strenuous discussions about cost savings. We've eliminated some conferences. We've eliminated purchasing, some purchases. We've eliminated bank service charges. Every place that we had miscellaneous expenses, again, the question was asked earlier in the meeting, do we go through it line item by line item? Yes, we do. Are there areas to reduce costs? We always feel there's areas to reduce costs on an ongoing basis. Bear in mind that our budget from where we were last year is 2.9% less than last year's budget. We're spending less money because there are no park renovations and activities there. We also had some significant cost overruns and unforeseen projects that affected us last year, specifically in the park with the seawall. That was about a $50,000 expenditure because of the washouts that have occurred there. Park renovations have exceeded the budget numbers. We managed to absorb all those. The new budget reflects the addition of a part-time park director at the request of the park committee and other members of council. We've included that in here with no increase in cost or tax revenues for that. We have funded to the extent that we are able to, the OPEB liability. We will be compliant with the law for at least the next 2 to 3 years, 2 at a minimum. Pension plan will remain to be funded at basically 98 to 100% in that area. Street projects in the upcoming year, we don't have any major redo scheduled like we did last year with Bellmead. This year it'll be what we call our cut, paste, and attach program. We'll be cutting out sections of certain streets, repairing those that we have. Our total budget for road work will be about $500,000 between the major and the local street funds. We are able to move some money from the major street fund to local to improve our local areas, but we've been pretty consistent year over year of trying to get one to three streets back into as good a shape as we can with the most cost-efficient way to do that. I will certainly entertain any, public comments, questions, or other concerns that the residents certainly may have, or any other comments from council at this point about it.
Rhonda, do you have anything to add, or is pretty well summarized?
Yeah, you summarized it great.
Is there any public comment? This is the time for the public to comment on it. The budget's long, it's tight. We have challenges. The challenges are in things that are very difficult to put your hands on, and that involves the science of actuarial science. Our legacy costs are probably our biggest concerns. You hear OPEB. Well, what is OPEB? Those are other post-employment retirement obligations that the city made. And that's probably our biggest challenge. There was a law that was passed in 2017, Public Act 202 of 2017. And it's really hamstringing our hands. I mean, first off, it requires we spend more money to find out how much more of a problem we have. Well, we know we have a problem. We spent $32,000 roughly in actuarial fees last year. And that compares with normally $7,500, $8,000. So we're way over budget on it, but that's all because of state mandated actuarial calculations. And then what's our required annual contribution? And then each state has, each home rule city and other taxing jurisdictions has to submit to the Michigan Department of Treasury annually. And they have to, that's our report card, and it tells us, or tells them what we have in the fund, the pension fund, defined benefit pension fund, and also our post-retirement health care fund. And it tells us how many what our assets are, what our liability is. And they use a discount rate that doesn't match our discount rate. They use a lower discount rate, much more conservative. And again, it increases the liability. There's an inverse relationship between the discount rate, internal rate of return, and what your liability is. So we're short. But so is Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe City. We're all in the same boat.
Well, the other part of that is, to compound on it, is up to this new public act, the tradition has been in the public sector that post-retirement health care is on what we call a pay-go method, pay as you go along. You would fund retiree health care out of your general fund budget on an ongoing basis. So there wasn't a requirement, as there is in a pension plan, to fund this, to make massive contributions into a fund, then actuarially determine what those costs are going to be going out into the future. And suddenly the state mandates this law. They want you to be 40% funded. Well, there's some communities that have, in our area, that have $40 million worth of liabilities. There's no way that a local jurisdiction can satisfy that. We have $1.8 to $2 million in our fund. We've used that fund up to this law to help offset some of the costs that we've incurred, and we did that because that's what the fund was created for. It wasn't if you will, a different type of pension plan. Now they're trying to make us treat this like a defined benefit plan. And remember, our new employees hired after we took office do not get post-retirement health care. They get a health savings account, so we're not having an ongoing liability going forward. We only have the liability for the retirees and the people who have met the service requirement up to 2012. But this liability is suddenly being thrust upon us, and we had a vociferous discussion amongst the council at the last finance meeting about funding this, and the consensus was, since we are at this point statutorily compliant, at least for the next 2 years, we will defer action on funding that any further. That's we're trying to reduce our costs as much as we can to the taxpayers, and we'll move forward with that. But it is a very onerous thing, and believe it or not, Grosse Pointe Shores is actually in a fairly good position. We have some money put away. We also have the fact that our revenues for healthcare costs are not increasing exponentially higher than our other revenues, if you will. And again, the highest cost from retiree health care is in the health care coverage. It's prescription drug coverage. And we've worked with different carriers to create generic programs, to create tiered programs with third-party administrators to reduce those costs. It has not gone untested in terms of that. But it is without that liability sitting over us, I would say we would be in not good shape, but rosy shape. Wouldn't you, Ted?
I like that. That sounds right.
But that's where we sit. Our tax rate would be 17 mils. We are not the lowest. We are not the highest in the Grosse Pointes. We are basically right in the middle of that whole group. And remember, we are the smallest. We have the highest concentration of public safety officers to residents. You know, when you look at the per capita number of officers in Grosse Pointe Shores versus Grosse Pointe Woods or the other communities, we have that, and we also have that level of service. We have unparalleled level of service for that. So, I wholeheartedly endorse the budget. I again welcome any comments from the public or any other comments from anyone about it at this point.
Yes, we welcome any discussion. This is our public hearing. We welcome any discussions.
Everybody saw the letter or the email that John Booth sent out, correct? And his
Yes,
comments and
yes.
thoughts about that, okay.
Well, that's a resident who had a meeting, Mark, with you. He said he would, and then he called me last week to say he was going to write a letter, and he gave us a 2-page, pretty detailed analysis of our finances. And the one thing, again, he pointed out was our post-retirement health care costs in the letter, and what to do with it. I mean, if there's anything that we can do with it. One of our neighboring Grosse Pointe cities is underfunded by over $53 million. $53 million. And their ARC, their actually required contribution, to amortize that, as calculated by the actuaries, is over $6 million a year. I mean, again, we're dealing with like Bruce said, this is something that, came about a couple years ago, and there was hope, that, I mean, we're one of the, I think the only Grosse Pointe, we have a 80-20 plan with our active employees. So
We were we're the only community 8 years ago when the law
Right.
was changed, we were the only Grosse Pointe that made our employees pay 20% of their health care costs. No other Grosse Pointe does that. They cap their costs or everything else. And it has affected our recruiting efforts to some degree to do that. But again, we feel that it's an important cost-saving strategy for us to go forward with.
That's right. I mean, we did that early on. We had no choice. I think our savings for making that move were somewhere like $94,000 to $96,000. At the time, our hole was about $300,000. So that fixed a good part of our deficit that, we were coming into as of June 30th, 2012. But it's a problem. It's a conundrum here, because, again, you really can't, it's not something that you see, but it's something we're responsible for. When you look at I printed the entire database from the Michigan Department of Treasury. Every city, every taxing authority that has to submit these reports now. And the ones that are in good shape are the ones that were able to, believe it or not, Detroit is perfect because they went bankrupt. Highland Park, Hamtramck, you look at some of the older cities, they have no OPEB obligation because it got canceled. But, you look at other cities that are vibrant, alive and vibrant. Roy Oak, you look at Birmingham, you look at throughout the community, and you can look at the report card and you see what their unfunded liability is versus the assets that have been set aside. So, I know we got to talk about the water rate and that'll,
Well, we're going to vote on this one first.
but, I want to thank the Finance Committee. Bruce said it very well. Rhonda, I want to thank you, Brett, the chief, Chuck, I see you in the back there. Mark, for your energy and passion, in working with a very difficult task, and that is, how do you maintain your extraordinary services? How do you maintain them, but without increasing the property tax millage? And, this is very difficult because we're dealing with costs that we call legacy costs, but costs that you really can't get a good handle on in terms of funding it. So a big thank you is in order. And and it's not easy to make cuts. I proposed a list of cuts. I think most of the council, everyone participated. And we threw everything up and, that to be discussed. And when you get used to the benefits, it's really hard. But one thing about that meeting, the April 18th meeting, was very open and very candid. And a lot of good ideas were shared, really, in terms of trying to save money for the city. We're not done yet. We're not done. We're going to continue to explore. It was raised about the field use, and, we're not charging, and I guess there's on an exception basis, most of the other cities aren't either. But this park is so unique, so different than the other parks in the other Grosse Pointes because it's adjacent, it's contiguous to a marina, a thriving marina with 140 boat slips. So, we have parking problems that probably won't go away. We've curbed the use of the soccer field. During the summer, they cannot play after 12 noon on Saturdays and Sundays. And we're policing that. That's something that the officers look for. And every time I drive by, I look to make sure that nobody's on the field. The field is so wonderful, they call it Ford Field. That's the Super Bowl of soccer fields, and it attracts travel teams from throughout the metropolitan area. And then when you kick out the people that are supposed to be here, then you have people that just take it over as their home field, which we discovered 2 years ago, I think. But, you know, it's hard to police, but Donna, we're working on it. You were in an accident last year, and the accident was caused by lack of visibility at the intersection. That's something, it's a hazard, and we're gonna be vigilant. I think the chief's well aware, we're gonna work on a solution, so whether it's increased enforcement, I mean, the day you and I walked down that street and into your subdivision, we didn't see one car in the subdivision. I didn't see any cars in the subdivision, but they were parked even west of Michaud Court. Well, and that's something, Jan, we're gonna work on. I mean, we know we have a problem, you know, and kids are in harm's way with their parents because of the tight parking we have. We gotta come up with a better solution.
Okay,
But-
can we vote on
Okay,
this?
well, at this point, let's,
Need a motion,
I need a motion. This is, we're adopting a tax rate of,
well, we got to vote first on adopting the budget. So we need a motion to approve, a motion for the budget
a motion for the budget as it currently exists.
as proposed.
Okay, second. Okay, any further discussion? This is the budget.
Yeah.
We have 3 votes. All those in favor, oh,
I'd have some discussion. Is this exactly Proposal A from the 18th meeting? There was no additional cuts made, even though we had discussed some cuts in a possible Proposal C? Okay.
okay, the motion's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. 5-2. Okay, the next item is the tax rate. The tax rate is 17.7031. Capital equipment comes out, right, Rhonda? I mean, it's at 0 right now on my sheet. Okay. So it's the same as last year. And again, the Finance Committee is recommending it. And again, you know, I need a motion to approve that tax rate.
So moved.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Is this exactly the same? I mean, we're not raising taxes anyway, the taxes are remaining the same, right? Because I've had people asking me that.
The tax rate is the same.
Total tax rate is
Okay, the allocations are different, the total tax rate is the
The
same.
17.7031 should line up with the 4 components of
That's
last
in
year.
your handout.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted it to be said so that people could watch this and understand that there isn't a millage increase, that there isn't a tax increase. Even though the numbers may look different, it's the same.
Okay, any further discussion? Gina? Okay, all those in favor of adopting a tax rate of 17.7031, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Okay, it passes. Water rate, Bruce, is, you want to discuss that a little bit?
Well, the water rates, as you know, they are, at this point, we're looking at a straight pass-through from the 2 entities that we deal with, which is basically the Great Lakes Water Authority for water that we receive. And that increase is about 4.7%, I believe, right, Rhonda?
4.75.
4.75%. The other component of that is the sewage rate that we paid to the newly formed Southeast Macomb Sewage District, which includes Grosse Pointe Shores, Grosse Pointe Woods, part of Harper Woods. And that includes the activities that go through the Milk River. That was formed when Wayne County got out of, dissolved the Northeast Wayne Sewage Control District. The end result of that is that our sewage rates are going up over 20%. That is based upon the surcharge that we are experiencing for what we have called excess flow. We are allowed so many cubic feet per second through our sewage pipe into their system, and we have historically exceeded that number, and we negotiated with them very hard to get that rate. Instead of being charged almost $250,000, we got an agreement in place that we would take a rolling 3-year average of excess flow at a reduced rate, and the upcoming rate is 132,000 as opposed to about 280. The other part of the increase is the fixed charge, which they assess to us based upon their costs and their pass-throughs. Literally, we have no control whatsoever over what those numbers are, as long as they are per the contracts that they agree to. So when you blend those two rates together, it works out to be 12.73%, which is quite honestly outrageous. But we have no choice. It is a pass-through. There's no markup. There's no increment to that. The only thing I can tell you is that you use less water. But it chokes me up.
Yeah, that's
We have no choice. I don't know. We can't separate from the sewer system, and we're going to make our own sewer system, our own sewage treatment plant. We're lucky in many respects because we have a separated system. Our stormwater and our rainwater are separated. Can you imagine what our sewage rate would be if we didn't have if we had a combined system, and we paid for this last 18 inches of rainwater that went down our pipe instead of into the lake? We already have enough overflows. The other problem we have is our sewage system was designed and built 100 years ago, and it was built with what they call open pipe. So the joints between the pipes were designed to allow water to seep between that to take it out of the groundwater around your home. Well, back then, nobody cared about combined sewage flow rates. Now they want these sealed systems. Well, you can't go through a community like ours and lay all new sewer pipe? That's impractical. So they penalize you for these activities. Now, we have gotten a grant from the state of Michigan a couple of years ago of $600,000. We televised our sewer system. We went through and we saw where we were having leakage issues, and I think about a year ago at the council meeting, we showed a video of the water infiltration down at the south end of the community and the amount of water coming through the sewer pipe from the lake. It was incredible. I think it was like, 400 gallons a minute or something. And we had to cement that and kept grouting the joints between the pipes, and it's literally like whack-a-mole. You fix one, 20 feet later, there's another seam, you do it. $120,000 later to repair that. With this really, really high water table out there, it's putting tremendous pressure just on the natural water table in the community. It's a wet area to start with, so we're getting a lot of constant flow, if you will. So, it's bad news. I wish I could tell you something different. There's no choice but to grin and bear it. Water your lawn. Well, you don't have to water your lawn because we've had 18 inches of rain. That's the good news. The bad news is you've had 18 inches of rain. So the rate is going to go up July 1st to 12.73%. I know there's been a lot of concern also about the breakdown of your water bill in terms of fixed charges, what those elements are. We're going to be working on that this summer with our new accounting software to try to emulate the bills of other local communities around us, because a lot of residents have asked for that. That has not been forgotten, but we need to establish this first, get our software up and running, and then that'll be our next project to tackle when we have the technical capability to do that. So that's our story.
Is there any public comment? Any council comment? Bruce, that 130,000, is that part of the settlement we have with Wayne? Because originally I thought it was 110,000.
Upcoming charge.
Oh, upcoming. So last year was 110. So, okay, jumped up.
If
Okay.
you look at in the packet, they give you the going forward number.
Okay.
It's 132, right, Rhonda?
When we had the meeting the other day regarding the seawall project, I was
The
very,
seawall project
the seawall between the yacht club and Warner, between the farms and the shores down at the Wayne County Commissioner's office. After we basically made that joint resolution about the seawall, I brought up the fact that we are basically paying for Lake St. Clair draining into our stormwater system because their seawall is deteriorated to the point where we are underwater right at Lake Shore Drive there. And you know, I think ultimately if this liability continues and they don't do anything about it, that we're gonna have to come up with some way to recover the cost. I don't think that the residents should have to pay for Lake St. Clair going into our stormwater system because Wayne County refuses to repair a seawall.
You're gonna have a hard time proving that one. That's,
I mean, we got cameras that have shown lake water just flooding in at 400 gallons a
we have
minute.
water coming in, but origins and sources. We threatened them, we told them that last time. When we went down and negotiated the separation, we told them that.
Mhm.
And what we're really gonna tell them is you're gonna have a catastrophic failure when that wall goes. And you know what it's gonna take out? Our sewer pipe. And then they're gonna really have real liability issues. Because it isn't gonna just be a roadway. They're gonna have a 15-mile road, and we're not paying for it.
No, that was brought up. That was
So-
brought up too.
in
Okay,
terms
any
of-
further discussion? Any more public comment? If not, I need a motion. And again, it's, so the water bills, the current water bills that you're gonna see won't line up with the water rate increase and the sewer rate because it's gonna be a composite. It's gonna be an average of the two rates until we detail it in the future with the new accounting software that we have. Because I know residents will be looking at the next bill, or the bill after the fiscal year starts, and again, it won't maybe make rhyme or reason because of the weighting of the two different percentage increases.
I do have one question. We had kicked around the idea a few months back about raising the minimum water bill charge because the majority of residents just get a minimum bill. Did we go any
I
further with
think it went
that?
up $30,
If you look at
didn't
the
it?
resolution
Yeah, it
that's
went
in your
up.
package, it includes that. What you're gonna vote on tonight includes raising the
So
Okay.
about 30, yeah, $25, $30.
12 something to,
Okay,
so that includes that.
like from one night, yeah.
Okay,
From 196 to 221.
That's part of what it is.
okay, so this recommendation, that's a footnote, that's actually what you guys are going for?
Right, it's a recommendation.
Okay,
Actually, the water fund does not actually need council approval for effectiveness.
okay.
It's an enterprise fund.
Oh.
But we look for the recommendation to go forward, so.
Well, I need a motion then to adopt the recommendation of the Finance Committee, raising the water rate by 12.73% and raising the water usage effective July 1st, 2019.
So move.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. I need a motion to leave the public hearing.
So move. Motion made.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Well, the next item. Rhonda. We don't need to say too much, I don't think, other than our check register run.
Actually, I do have quite a few things tonight. I'm making up for all my other short comments. In your package, you have your list of your wire transfers for the month of May, and there really is nothing unusual here. It's the same payroll taxes, the Blue Cross payment, and the prescription coverage as the bills come through. Following that, you have your check register for the checks issued since our last council date. One of the first items you'll see on page 1 is a check for the software conversion from BSNA software for $17,000. And that's a good chunk of the total bill. BSNA has already performed the data extraction from our server so that they can then take that information on their computers, start converting things around to make sure everything is at a balanced point at some point for all the programs. And there's like 8 different programs that they have to go through. There's also a bill for Kimberly Fence for the new fencing near the entrance of the new gatehouse. There's a bill for Arbor Pro for tree trimming. We have a $32,000 payment to Hutch Paving for work on the driveway. You'll see towards the bottom of the second page of the check register, bill for $4,000 for Wolverine Freightliner, and that was repairs to the newer garbage truck that had some computer issues. There's also a large bill to Appcor Construction for the guardhouse. I believe that is the total payment on that. There will be no more fees resulting from that. On the third page of the check register, we had some new computers for the Public Safety Department, around $4,000. That did not come out of the general fund. that money came out of the law enforcement fund, basically through drug forfeitures. And that's about all that pop out for me. Is there any questions that you may have on other checks?
Anybody have any questions? Rhonda, we reimbursed John Pollock like $2,100. Was that a tax tribunal or?
That was a Boatwell.
Oh, Boatwell? Okay.
Sold his boat
Oh,
after, I don't remember, 30 or 40 years.
oh, wow.
And I know there was another check in here for restitution, and that was a court case where the defendant had to make payments back to the city so that we can then reimburse the victim of that crime, so.
I see. Okay. If there's no other question, I need a motion to approve this check run.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thanks, Rhonda.
Okay, looking at a revenue and expenditure report, right now our general fund is listed at 92.5% of our budgeted funds that we expect to receive, and that will be going up before June 30th. And on the expenditure side, we're at 86.3%, and unfortunately, that will be going up also. But I feel that, as of right now, I think we still will have a small surplus at the end of the year.
80, 90,000, you think?
I haven't
know
run the
that was
numbers
number was
again.
kinda
Yeah.
bantered around.
For the June council meeting, I will be bringing back the final amended budget
Okay.
numbers for the current fiscal year. And so that's where I'll get a better idea of where we're at.
Okay.
Also, about 2 weeks, I'll be working on the next quarterly water bill. That bill will be due the first week of July normally, but that is at the current rate, not the rate that was approved tonight.
Okay.
And also, we will have tax bills, unfortunately, that we'll have to start working on also. A couple of odd things. As we've been going through, looking at every bill that comes across my desk, Mark's desk, Brett, the chief, like, okay, is this really necessary, going through these bills? So there was a bill, it's around $80, for the safe deposit box. And I know years ago, I questioned the need for that, and the answer I got back from the bank was, we had to have it for some reason, I can't remember. Can't find my notes. So when I got the invoice this year, contacted our rep again. And they're like, no reason to have it.
Find gold in there?
So, now I know where the safe deposit box is, and they gave me the box number. 32 years, I've never seen a key.
Wow.
What was in it?
I contacted people from before my time. They hadn't been in it. No one knew where a key was. I got buckets of spare keys, unknown keys from the police department. Nope, no key. So I got the paperwork to close it. Go down there, they drill it open. They're really hoping for gold bars.
Yeah.
And
Finger.
I really thought there'd be nothing in it. No cash. And I showed these at the pension commission meeting last week. But these are journals. They start from 1925 to 1979. Each time a member of the pension commission, which there had to be more than one at a time to go open the box, they would make notes of what they took out, what they put in, clip coupons. They did an inventory. It was pretty interesting to look through.
Wow.
And because back prior to me starting here, I had always heard that the pension commission sat around with the Wall Street Journal and they would discuss which stocks they were going to, be purchasing. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I just have a couple pages that I just Xerox if you just want to pass them around and look at them. Everything else that's in this folder are deeds. Haven't been through everyone because I've been busy doing other things. But one that stood out that I did not know the history of it is the property we're sitting on right now. In 1912, Benjamin and Romaine Warren sold this property, which I have a copy of the blueprint. The blueprint's from 1944, though. They sold it to Henry Ford and Clara Ford for $1. I was not aware that the Ford family owned this property
Wow.
at one time. So it's just, if you want to take a look at them, you're more than welcome.
Wow.
And the last thing on my list is we have the actual award for the budget with our name properly printed on it this time. No more Grosse Pointe blank. So I'll just put it over here if anyone wants to look at it, because it's kind of heavy.
Good work, Roger. Good work.
So you did close the safe deposit box, right?
Yes, it is closed. We will not have that bill anymore. Just another way of looking at every bill.
Yeah, I thought gold doubloons would be there.
I was really hoping for a gold bar. but-
Thank you, Rhonda. Well, Bruce, you covered pretty much our finances, so we'll go Chief Public Safety.
Well, we just had one other thing. We have a Finance Committee meeting the 11th of June to go through the budget amendments. At that point, it will be at 10 o'clock. Morning, all are welcome.
Thanks, Bruce.
That's it.
Chief?
Good evening again. Public safety has been busy in the last month with several projects we've been working on with DPW. First off, Grosse Pointe Shores received a communication from the state of Michigan regarding our mutual aid status with the other Grosse Pointe and Harbor Woods in regards to our medic service. They recognize that all of our surrounding Grosse Pointe communities utilize MedStar and that Grosse Pointe Shores did not have a mutual aid agreement with MedStar. With the help of the city attorney, a concise agreement was drafted to authorize MedStar to respond to Grosse Pointe Shores in the event that we need them for a mutual aid on a medic run. So this has been taken care of. Now we have a signed agreement that shows that if we need them, they will come for us. Mark, Tom, and I met it's a couple weeks ago now. We met with our engineer from TIA, Pat Cawley, and we walked the area of the park entrance where he made several recommendations in regards to the signage. I'll just run through a couple of these quickly. The old park entrance is now an exit. It's marked "Do Not Enter." The new park entrance is open as of today. This afternoon it opened. Brett and his crew have been working very hard. I'm sure he has more information on that. And the turnaround is open. The new turnaround is open for southbound Lakeshore traffic to either, one, enter the park, or two, to go northbound on Lakeshore. The no turn on red sign from Vernier and Lakeshore eastbound to southbound Lakeshore has been removed, and the no turn on red on eastbound Vernier to southbound, the no turn on red sign at the park, at the entrance of at the light of the park where we prohibited vehicles from turning right on red because of pedestrian traffic, that sign has been removed as well. Finally, the turnaround at the new turnaround, the U-turn is prohibited from northbound to come around to go southbound on Lakeshore because of the increased traffic load. The signage was recommended by our traffic engineer, and we think it'll move pretty smoothly. We have a couple of little areas that we're still looking at. So if you have any questions on that particularly item, I'll be happy to try and address them. I know Brett has, this is another example of how Public Works and Public Safety work well together, because we've been on this project for pretty steady for a couple of months now, so.
Maybe I haven't seen it, Chief, but can you make a U-turn from northbound Lakeshore, right here at Vernier, to southbound Lakeshore?
In the new turnaround?
No, just like if you're coming up northbound past the yacht club and then you turn left light and then you turn south down Lakeshore.
A U-turn at the intersection.
A U-turn at the intersection.
I don't think you,
You mean, and just go back, no, it's posted, no U-turn.
Okay, I've seen two people do it.
Well,
Well, maybe there was a sign up there.
We actually write a lot of tickets there, and we actually get a lot of yacht club traffic that tries that as well, and we enforce that pretty regularly.
Got a question, Chief, on the, by the way, the signage and the arm It's always illuminated with the LED lights. We're at all of the landscaping's planted. I mean, it looks great, guys. But the sidewalk for bike traffic, and I know you've got a stop sign there that says must present, pass or go to the guardhouse or whatever the verbiage is on it. On the left side, like on the right side, we got our landscaping, but on the left side, it's kind of open where someone could just drive off the sidewalk and go into the parking lot. I think we should have a yellow line there so that they know that they should stay on the sidewalk.
Well, the sidewalk is marked with the pads on both sides of the.
I mean, from the gate to where the stop sign is, where they would stop, get off their bikes and present their passes to the.
Yeah, sure, we could create some kind of a barrier there if that's.
I'm just, because it's actually the same grade as the parking lot itself.
Right.
And a kid on a bike could just go straight and be out in the middle of the parking lot. And I thought if we put some kind of either barrier there or a curb or at least paint it yellow, something.
And the sidewalk there as it approaches the new guardhouse is not actually ideal for the checking of the passes. We're looking at possibly reversing the door so it swings in towards as opposed to out, which would make things a lot easier for the park ranger. So that's something we could certainly look at.
Yeah, it seems like most days he's going to be outside anyways, right?
Well, you'd probably be in the doorway, I would assume. When there's only one park ranger working, he'll work the inside gate though, not the outside gate.
Right.
Because we need his presence inside the park, so. Two officers that are assigned to our special response team applied for and were granted an invitation to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. This is an all-expense paid training, is highly regarded, and the PSOs Spina and Cook, who are assigned to the SRT, were able to bring back our department valuable training, and tools, and methods for our officers. So we're very grateful that very few are selected to that training session. Finally, we have hired 5 new part-time park rangers to staff the park, the gates as efficiently as we possibly can. Tom, Brett, and I worked on the details today for the new building. We're waiting for the internet connection to be put into a terminal, and I'm sure Brett has more on this particular. Rhonda informed me, just as I walked in, that we've issued 2,215 park passes to date for the park, and they've been mailed to the residents. So if you have any questions, or if you want to revisit the parking issue, I'm certainly I'm open to anything that we can do to. There's a little history. Is this that when I first started, it was a common practice to allow Vernier parking as well as the swim meet on Lakeshore. Is it ideal? No, but a lot of those cars are residents. Half of them belong to Grosse Pointe Shores residents, and we try and accommodate. We try and police it the best we can. It's only a problem on half a dozen nights, and Saturday was a big issue because those teams played rain-out games, and cars were everywhere. And and there's some things we're going to look at. We're going to post the no parking here to corner east of Mishaw. We're going to make that far more visible, and we're going to possibly trim a tree.
Yeah, there's a tree, I think, that interferes with the sight line.
And we will, if necessary, we can post one side of Mishaw, no parking anytime, which might help the entranceway. And then, coupled with that, the only way to ensure that that's not a problem is to enforce it. And although we're not available every moment of the day, we can certainly make that a priority. So,
Chief, if we put barricades, would people move those barricades?
most likely, yes.
Would they?
And here's the other issue, is that, yes, one resident mentioned that there was a no parking anytime sign, and yet there was cars parked in front of it. That's because we have allowed that over the years. Now, we used to bag the sign so that you couldn't see the sign, but if the decision of the council is to prohibit that parking, we're going to create a huge issue, but we'll be more than happy to follow the direction of the council. So, whatever your intentions are, we're here to help.
Oh, that's for the little people. I mean, really, I think AA, I think at some point, when AAA doesn't play at that field, because I think at 9 years of age, they're too big, and the kids are hitting the ball into the hill. So And I think it ends early in June. So it seems to be a problem like May 1st to like June 15th. I mean, that's really a very short season for the double A and I think single A, Little League.
The other issue is that it was raised is that there's, beer cans, for example, or if there's anything on that hill that doesn't belong there. Most of the complaints that we had looked into, the public safety never received a call on those. So we encourage the residents, if they see a group on the field, that they don't belong there, call our dispatch center. We'll come out immediately and we will police that for sure. But we have to know about it.
Should we lock the gate? Is that a possibility, Chief, to prevent that? If we put a lock on the gate going into the hill area?
Schroeder Fieldhouse?
Is that
Well,
practical?
it's a very low fence, and it would take nothing to scale it, of course, but once again, if that's,
That gate's supposed to be locked at dark, right? That's
that
what it
gate is
says.
locked, as well as the one that leads to the soccer field is also locked.
But for a while, I know it was broken, or the latch, I think.
It didn't latch properly, yes. Just the way they lock the Schroeder Fieldhouse at night as well.
I noticed that the new camera system's up in the park. Is that operational too, or? are
It
you
is
waiting for that?
operational, however, Brett brought to my attention this morning that the cameras were mounted in a position that's going to prevent us from putting gutters on the building. So we're going to have Conti come out and relocate the cameras so that they can,
Okay.
if that's what Public Works recommends, that's what we'll do. I spoke with him today, and yes, the cameras are up and running, and they're storing data on our main drive in Public Safety.
Is it possible maybe to put a couple of cameras back on Schroeder Field so that if there are people back there that don't belong there, that we can be, because I noticed like in dispatch, you've got multiple feeds showing. I mean,
Those are internal cameras and parking lot cameras only.
so we don't have a monitor with just those feeds up anyways?
The
That somebody could be walking by and go, hey, what's going on over there?
10 cameras that are in the field at the various locations, north end, south end, Cook, Valentine, those feed into a different computer. The ones that are within the municipal building and the ones that cover the parking lots feed into that one at the dispatch center, right at the desk there. If we expand the system, I've been informed that we're maxed out on that system, the exterior system. So if we added something on the system that controls the park, we would have to expand the system.
One last question. If we put like just a stationary monitor with the different cells of the different camera angles just in the park inside of the gatehouses so that when they're sitting there, maybe, inside, and they can at least monitor it live?
I don't know that answer. Currently, we send.
There's a lot of times that, I walk into the park or whatever and they're in the house and there's really not a lot of activity in the park, but they could at least be monitoring to make sure that there's not something screwy going on somewhere out of their sight.
I don't know that because currently the system where the new guard booth sends a wireless signal to the municipal building, which then stores it onto our server, which is downstairs here. I can look into that. I don't know what the capabilities are there, sending a signal back to the park.
Or maybe there's a monitor that just receives a signal that you place on the desktop.
I'll be happy to inquire with Conti and see.
I'm just curious,
No.
I
Thanks.
have I guess a question. When you talk about, again, we're going to go back to this baseball. So, first of all, I'm not anti-baseball playing or whatever. What I am is who makes that scheduling with the baseball organization? Who in this building does that?
No,
No one.
they send us their schedule, which until the last couple of years, when, as one of the commissioners said, we didn't always get the current schedule and a list of who's resident, who isn't, etc. That we have gotten the last couple of years. The liaison usually works through the Parks Committee.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. Someone is just using Grosse Pointe Shores Park of their own free will, and we don't know who's doing it?
No, it's a league, the Wood Shores Little League.
Okay, well, do we have somebody that the Wood Shores Little League should be contacting the Grosse Pointe Shores people to say this is what's happening? Because if it's a
think they
Little
do.
League game, I mean, how
Yeah,
many
they do.
players
John-
are on
John
each
Mueller.
team? 10,
contact,
15
yeah.
people?
John Mueller is part of the park committee too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And John, you know.
So
does that
somebody
stuff.
should know what the other side, somebody's doing. So why can't we schedule one baseball game on a Saturday? They can use that parking lot and they can use this parking lot. They shouldn't need Vernier. How many people come to these baseball games? It's not Ford Field.
Bunch
I
of
mean,
people that come there.
well, okay, then those people can park on Michelle, but we shouldn't have 100 cars here on a Saturday morning for a Little League baseball. I know people are gonna just go crazy over me right now. Oh, and I love Little League, I love this, but what I'm saying is, I just feel like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing here, that
Well, Saturday
somebody's.
was an unusual event because we had teams that were playing makeup.
Then we should have kicked them off. We should have said, you're playing makeup games, we know nothing about this, you need to go. Why can't we say that?
Does it make sense maybe to start a new, procedure where they report directly to the park committee? The park committee serves as oversight, and then whenever there is a scheduling issue, they make sure that public safety gets an email
Well,
about it.
there's things that happen with that though that are also like, they're administrative things. I mean, they need to go, they come up there, they gotta have their insurance certificate.
Well, we do
you
get
know what I
that.
mean? So it's not like I'm gonna approve that. I'd be another step. I'm gonna say, just go upstairs and they'll take care of it for you. You know what I mean?
But I mean, it would
For
be.
things like
It
that.
would be valuable, I think, for us to have some kind of a protocol as to how this gets scheduled and what's the line of communication, because even in the instance.
The budget you guys just approved, it's got a park director in it.
Mhm.
Sounds like a perfect job for that person, don't you agree?
Yeah, could
Be the
right.
liaison coordinator, disseminator, and the contact person, and then.
Well, yeah, I just think that.
I agree.
I think we're not looking ahead. Here, every day, we're talking about cutting costs and trying to find different things, but yet we are saying that we are letting people who live East Point, St. Clair Shores, and nothing against all that, in some gross points, come and use our fields, suck our public safety resources, use our public works resources, and yet we're okay with all of this, and yet we have residents of Long Vernier all over that are paying taxes that can't get out of their parking, that can't get out of their driveways, that can't pull out into their streets because we are accommodating other people. I don't find that that's fair.
I think that's certainly an administrative decision that could be made, and I think the park.
Well, I think it needs
either
to be
the park
done.
Supervisor or the,
Well, we don't have a park supervisor right now, and we're already into the end of May.
well, the park committee.
They've already got their schedule set for the Little League and that stuff.
But we don't have it. Somebody said we don't
Bob
see
used to
it.
coordinate that.
We don't get rain-out dates, but we do get a schedule. It comes to they provide it through the Parks Committee, actually to Lynn and stuff. But if there are changes in that, we don't usually get it.
I've never seen it before.
So he's never seen it. You haven't seen
Well,
it.
They do get a schedule
And
upstairs.
soccer, what about soccer? When are we gonna start charging for this Ford Field, for this great field that we have? Right.
Well,
We
when you-
can't have this all happening at the same time. But if nobody's got a schedule, if no one's scheduling this, then of course they can just come at their free will.
I think Bruce has got a good point, though. I mean, if we are bringing on a new park director, that maybe that's the point, the time to sit down and really rehash this and rethink it and come up with what's reasonable and what isn't, and why aren't we charging, and should we charge, and should this league even be here, and really get a comprehensive look at what we should be doing in Schroeder Field,
Well,
Schroeder
that's not
Park.
gonna be done this year.
Well, I understand.
We don't have a park director now, so what are we gonna do between now and the end of June? What are we gonna do about that parking?
Well, the chief said that the people move the barricades.
They
And
park
so,
around them.
you know,
It sounds like the only issue we have is these rainouts and these makeup games.
We have this every weekend. It doesn't matter if it's a rain out or not. If they're playing baseball and soccer on the same Saturday, then it is like
that-
this
and-
every
and
weekend. And tonight
baseball-
it was like it.
And
Tonight.
And baseball ends when, Ted, did you say June 1st?
I think like June 15th. It's May 1st. It's a very short schedule for the
So we've got,
No.
what, 30
the
days?
smaller
Right.
Okay.
boys and girls.
So what do you think we could accomplish in 30 days? For baseball,
Knowing us, nothing.
okay?
Okay.
So you're gonna,
Sir, exactly, tickets.
Well,
Why
the
aren't we
chief will
getting
do whatever the council wants. So if the council decides to be very draconian about this, that would
Well,
be
why
up.
would they stop parking there if they're not getting tickets? If I could park now, again, you talked about you got a ticket, somebody parked out in front of my house overnight, you got a ticket.
Well,
You ticket
done
those
it.
people.
We've done it we've barricaded it on the east end, and we've done it to accommodate some of the residents. And
But
so-
on Saturday, they moved the barricades, they parked around the barricades into the path of Michaud.
That's an
we're there.
enforceable event.
Well, at that time, the police officer in charge said, game's almost over, let's just let it go. Oh, okay.
Well, we can issue instructions to.
Right, so we can't go until those people go, so we're inconvenienced because the baseball game's not quite done. I just don't agree with that. I'm
Well, I think
just
it-
frustrated
my-
by this.
well, I
And I
think
think
that-
if you all lived there, you would be too.
Well, I think we need to have an established policy, and particularly what the field use for the two organizations. The Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League has always been here for almost 60 years. So you have to live in the woods, or you have to live in the shores. You can't live in East Point, can't live in St. Clair Shores. One of those two cities. The East Side Football League is a little bit different, and that program it's a metropolitan area program. And we've tried to clamp down, we've talked. Some of the residents that are here, I see them, they've told me we should be charging. They told me how much we should be charging. We've discussed this, Bob, you discussed it with, for a couple of years. They said, well, we only pay for one other field. Again, our field's different. Well, thanks, Chief, I'm sorry to make you stand, but Jan, please come up, so it's hard to hear from where we're sitting.
Cars going north on Vernier and stopping at the light here, and they are turning left on Vernier. This way.
West.
Yeah. Turning left on Vernier, at the light. And then if you're in the left lane on Vernier, wanting to go north on Lakeshore, there seems to be a problem with the light, because people are there and people are trying to go off on Vernier out, and there's still people trying to turn left and they can't do it. There's some kind of timing on that. Have you noticed that?
Right turn, the right turn on red is going to be that sign.
Okay.
This is not time.
There's a 1 second delay before they go to green.
Okay. For the cars that are going north on Lakeshore, wanting to go west on Vernier. Okay, they're wanting to turn, but then we get a green light on Vernier, and the people that are in the left lane wanting to go north on Lakeshore, they can't go across because they don't know what to do.
To my knowledge, those lights there's never a situation where those two signals have green.
No. What's happening is when you're trying to make a left turn onto Vernier from Lakeshore,
Right.
you get stuck in the median,
Yes.
waiting for the southbound traffic on Lakeshore to cross you to go ahead on the blinking yellow arrow. Well, then that arrow turns red.
Right.
And so you're stuck there now, whether you
Yes.
run that red light or these people are now coming this way. So even the other day it happened to us, and Marty, he just went and he was like, "Ugh, I just ran a red light." And I'm like, well, we had to get out of the intersection because people were coming this way. So- Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank
Oh,
you,
I
Jan.
just admitted that my husband ran a
Brett?
red light.
I was gonna say, your ticket will be in the mail.
Yeah, my ticket will be in the mail.
Well, on another note, let's talk DPW stuff. I'm going to start by saying good evening to everyone. It's good seeing you again, and I think I mentioned this once in a while. Thank you for letting me speak on behalf of your Public Works Department. Let me start by saying it would be a big mistake for you or for me to not speak to you about the spring weather we've had. It's been mentioned earlier but I bet you didn't know that we have had rain the last 57 out of the last 80 days.
Wow.
So far, we've had over 11 inches of rain, and I think you said, how much was it? 18. 18.
For the spring
And
season.
we're, for the month of May, we are 3.5 inches above normal on rainfall. And I have to say, this has given the DPW department, it's affected a lot of our work and put us behind the 8 ball. We've had our lawnmowers get stuck in the soccer field, the baseball field, in the park. In fact, there are large portions of the park that are currently underwater. I tried walking out to the picnic tables today and I couldn't even get to them. We didn't have rain. Well, we had some yesterday, but we didn't have any rain today. I did take some pictures and was planning on disseminating them, but I overlooked it as I came in, so I left the pictures upstairs. But currently, we can't even get to our picnic tables because the ground is so bad. Hopefully, things will dry up a little bit before the holiday, so we can get things going. The flower beds that we normally prepare this time of year has been extremely difficult to work in, but I can say they are ready for our spring planting, which is supposed to start tomorrow. And we've already talked about the park entrance, but it's having its landscaping done as we speak. A big shout out goes to Helen By with the beautification committee. She spent a lot of time over there. And Harold Mishaw and his crew, they've really been going to town over there working as well. When the garbage trucks are off the route, those guys have been working over there. I can say things are looking pretty good. And it was mentioned earlier that the new park entrance was open today. Most of the signage is up and most of the landscaping is done, as I mentioned earlier. And I can say with all the discussion we've had, I'm sure there's going to be some hiccups, but we're going to work them out. If there's something that needs attention, let us know. We don't have all the answers, but we'll at least take a look at it and see if we can get things fixed up as these issues arise. And I can also say that high lake levels has made us to put sandbags around in our park, the west side of our park by the marina. Last week when we had a northeast wind, the lake water was breaching the seawall and literally the lake was flooding into our park. So we've been working quite a bit on that. We finished up the section that we planned on doing recently. We'll be monitoring them, and if we have more issues, we'll make adjustments as necessary. So if you get a chance to get over to the park this holiday or this week, go take a look at all the work that your DPW staff has been doing. Again, if you see something that needs work in the park as far as sandbagging, let us know, and we'll try to get over there. And also, we have some residents in Grosse Pointe Shores that may be in need of sandbags. I've already been in contact with a couple, but if there's anyone out there that feels that they need sandbags, please provide or just give the DPW staff a call, and we'd be more than happy to provide them with the bags as well as sand. We won't fill the bags for you, that's quite a challenge, but we'll at least provide the bags and the sand. And I was just made aware today, or recently, that Grosse Pointe Farms, that they've extended this curbside recycling contract. This contract is administered by Grosse Pointe Farms, while the other Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods, we participate in that program. So we're going to keep things moving forward as normal, and I would assume they would go out to bid the end of next year. I'm also happy to say that finally the generator for the Crestwood lift station has arrived. That's something we've all been looking forward to. We have some preliminary work to do before we can get started on the project, and we've also borrowed a portable generator. We have a good working relationship with a lot of our contractors, and he says he doesn't use it a lot in the summertime. So he's been generous enough to let us keep his generator in place. Some of the preliminary work we have to do is we're literally going to hook it up and run the Crestwood lift station with the generator to make sure everything works before we start removal of the existing one. I mentioned months ago when we ordered the generator that the DPW is going to be doing as much work as possible, and I met with the electrician today, and I think what we can do is have the electrician come in and take care of all the high voltage wires, get them away from the generator, and a plumbing company come in and remove or disconnect the gas line. And we should be able to physically remove the generator, remove the concrete, and then have a new concrete guy come in and install a new pad. We're going to have to do some directional drilling from the location of the generator to the lift station. Rules have changed as far as the way electric goes. You can't put high voltage and low voltage together. So there's some work that's got to be done on that as well. So that's something that's moving forward. Just a little update. I'm sure this job is going to be a challenge for the DPW, something we've never done before, but we have a lot of excitement and the guys are ready for it. Let's see. The Colonial Road paving project is scheduled to begin Tuesday, May 28th, the day after the holiday. The surface on the road will be milled down 4 inches and 4 inches of new asphalt will be placed. Manholes and catch basins will be repaired as necessary. We did a preliminary investigation of all the manholes and catch basins yesterday. We only found a couple that need repair. The street, as far as that goes, is in pretty good shape. Work's probably going to take a couple weeks to complete. Parking will be provided on Lockmore. And everyone knows Colonial is a very unique street to Grosse Pointe Shores. There's very little room to work. Our residents have been notified once. We notified them last week. And we'll have a letter go out again this Thursday to remind them that, hey, disaster is coming. We will be providing people there with assistance that need to get to the end of the road. When the gas project was being done, we have a few residents that have home care coming in a couple times a day, and we know who that is, and we'll give them a ride to their house and try to make things as smooth as possible. But I'm sure it'll be a challenge for everyone. I can also say the approach on Woodland Shore and Lake Shore is scheduled to be replaced beginning the week of June 10th. This is something we were planning on doing last year, but if you remember, in the middle of our concrete fall season, the weather got real cold and we had to stop a lot of work.
My neighbor, Dr. Gannon, thanks you for that.
Oh, well, it's not done yet. After it's done, he might not thank me as the work is being done.
I told him that it's on the way.
No, very good. Well, signs are going to be posted local traffic only, and Chief, you and I have not had a chance to meet on this, but we're going to have to put local traffic only on Cook Road, or on Ballantyne near Cook, and we're also having a sign made that there's no access to Lake Shore Road from Woodland Shore. Again, you and I will meet on that. We'll make sure everything is clear. This project, believe it or not, is just an approach, but it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
The process of this, they're going to dig it up and replace half of the street, and then they have to wait their 7 days for that to dry, and then they move over to the other side. So it's not a driveway where we can just come in there and take it out and pour it and be done. So it's going to be an inconvenience, but when it's done, I'm sure there'll be a lot of happy people. And as with all of our construction projects, please exercise caution when you're in the work area and observe all the traffic signage that you see. Also, with a heavy workload this spring and the inclement weather, our coal patch crews are behind schedules. We've fallen behind. There's a lot of coal patch work that needs to be done out there. I realize that. I am taking phone calls and making notes, and as soon as we get the opportunity, we'll get that crew back out. Let's see. Oh, we also have fallen behind on repairing the grounds from our water main breaks that we've had over the winter. We're going to try to get, I have a pet peeve one that's down here on Lake Shore where those barrels are. We at least would like to get that cut out and some topsoil placed before the holiday. But right now we have all hands on deck at the park. But either way, that's one of our goals for the week. Let's see. Oh, this has not been an issue yet because of the wet weather we're having, but normally I report to you this month that our irrigation systems are up and running. We have not started them yet. We've been working on other things. The intakes are literally, we bolt them on, they go down into the lake, or where we bolt them on, that's underwater. But I hope the guys will have them up and running before the hot weather comes where we're going to be needing our irrigation system. That's all I have for tonight. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Any questions for Brett? Brett, I want to thank you for replacing that sign. I sent you that email on a Sunday, and
Oh.
my neighbor's sign where it was not visible, and we've been having more people parking on the street. And also, I talked to Bob earlier today, and he said that you got a plan to maybe paint the bottoms of some of those light posts. Not all of them, but many of them are pretty rusty, and he said we got to use aluminum oxide, I think, or
That's something
something.
that's been on our radar. We
That's what
usually
he said,
get
and I
through
want to thank you.
once every few years. Councilman Barrett and I have spoken about it, and that's something that's definitely on our radar. Typically, we'll have one seasonal employee. We set him up with a little paint buggy. And the last project he did is we had all of our fire hydrants painted. And next cycle around, I don't know if this is going to be this year, but that's something we do is we take care of the bases. And you may see the ring where they stop. They usually get up about 6 or 7 feet, and they do what they can. And yes, Councilman Seeley did say, and Councilman Barrett, that there is a paint that they use that it will be better than what we've been
You
using
tried
in the
that in
past.
some
And
uses, yeah.
hopefully, we can do that maybe every 10 years instead of every 3 or 4. That would be nice.
Well, thanks, Brett, for
That's on our radar.
attending to that.
Yes, well, as far as the sign goes, as I mentioned at all the meetings, if you see something that needs attention, we appreciate those calls. Like right now with our potholes, we might not get at them right away, but we keep a list. And we try to get those things taken care of as soon as we get a chance.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Okay. Parks Committee, Doug?
Yeah, we had a meeting early this month, and we talked several different things. Tennis courts, there's a couple things Brett was working on to fix, and the gates didn't align real good, so he was working on to take care of those things. The tot lot, I don't know if they've made any progress, but I think we'll probably find out when Brett talks about that. In the gatehouse, and we talked about landscaping, Helen was there and things like that, so those kind of general things. But we did have a big issue that came up, and that was dogs in the park. And we've had a problem just recently, I guess, in, it's people not cleaning up after their dogs. And we discussed it, and we found out some other things. We were out there one day for the Easter egg hunt, setting that up, and one of the people helping, no, I know, well, but it's there. And I don't want to dwell on it very much, but it's just people bringing their dogs out there when we let them run free and not cleaning up after them. And DPW's had to clean up after them. When we were there, the beautification committee that day cleaned up 5 more piles. There was actually a resident that was charged by a dog, and then we found out too, and I didn't know this, that there was a 4-year-old that was bit in the face by a dog out there. So we discussed it between ourselves, and there was a couple of folks, residents that were there, and we decided to recommend to eliminate all dogs in the park, being the park out front and the park out back at all times. The dogs won't be allowed in the park except for 2 cases, and those are the dogs that help clean up with the goose droppings and everything, because it seems like we've got word back from some of the boaters and everything. Not all of them are real happy about it, but a lot of them are very happy that it's been cleaned up a lot better. The park looks a lot better without the geese in there. So, once again, we're recommending that all dogs be eliminated in the park. I don't know if we need to approve this by the council.
Wait, what about the dogs going to the boats?
Well, you can walk to the boat, but you can't have a dog like we do in the winter time. We open it up and
Oh,
anybody
we're
can
not gonna let
take-
it happen in the winter?
No more, And I love dogs, just like you love Little League. I got a dog.
The comment of the week.
That was great.
You're not including service dogs, are you, Doug?
No, I mean,
You get in trouble.
and the service dogs, and then we've found out that there's 2 dogs. Fran is one of them with Trace that goes out there religiously a couple times a day, and we want to keep that up. And so the plan is to just eliminate all dogs from all the parks and, except for the 2 dogs.
Including the winter.
Including winter, all times, at all times. Prohibit dogs from the park. So if it's a Little League game and you got dogs going to the park, you can't take them. And we'll let them know when they come to do their administrative things and give a schedule and everything, no dogs in the park. Soccer teams, same thing. No dogs out there.
Who's policing that, though?
Well, I
On a
mean, that's a
Saturday?
police job. It's not mine or yours. I mean, you know,
Well,
how
the
do you do
chief's
that? You're
writing
not-
down now, it's on his to-do
Well,
list.
Chief was there at the meeting too, and, and Chief was actually the one that told us about this 4-year-old that was, bit in the face. And luckily, from what I understand, there were no charges pressed against anybody. It surprises me nowadays, but, so, like, to suggest a motion then to, eliminate all dogs, or do you wanna discuss a little bit?
Did anybody give any consideration to, let's say, allowing dogs in the winter, at the conclusion of the winter, you hire a firm like, dog poop pickup, and people pay a fee, and they come in and do a one-time cleanup round, let's call it the poo roundup. And if you wanted to participate, because the park's not used in the winter, except for the dog, the dog people really like the fact that they can run their dog in the winter over there.
Yeah, they don't pick up after them.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is then have a cutoff date, let's pick March the 31st. Dogs are banned after that date. First, then they pay a fee, not us. The people who want to be able to go over there, they pay a fee to an outside contractor who cleans the park for them on their behalf. So when it's ready for the springtime and the residents for the Easter egg hunt and all that, the park has been gone through at that point by an outside company, not you and I relying on us walking around, and they've paid for it so that the park's available.
How do you police that? I mean, do you get a
No, it's
special
it's
pass
just
for
another
the-
administrative thing somebody's
you
gonna
get a
have to
pass
do
for the
upstairs.
dog? I mean, that's, 'cause
Well, they
you'll
would have, it's real easy. If they want to go do that, they have to sign up, they have to agree to the fee, and they would already be registered because they have their fob for the dog park here. We already have a system in place with the dog
For
park.
Yeah, but
residents
those people
only.
that do the dogs out there, they don't necessarily have a fob for them.
Well, they're gonna have to have a fob. That's the way you make it work.
But it still doesn't address the issue of a kid getting bit.
Matt, but a kid got bit in the summertime. And where no one's saying not to have the ban after April 1st. I'm saying around here what it has been in the fall and the winter when the park is desolate and no one's there to allow dogs to run, and then the complaint has been, well, you don't clean up after them. Okay. I'm not gonna argue with that. Let's put a procedure in place. You pay for it to have them cleaned up. And if you gotta have
I think it's a good idea, but like I know in the fall, a lot of the kids get bundled up and they go play in the playscape and they're still in the park, and if a dog bites a kid, what do we do?
Keep your fingers crossed that they don't sue like this last one.
Well,
Well, we don't allow dogs loose, what is it, after Labor Day? I mean, November 15th? They're allowed,
I don't know exactly the dates
when
that
the
dogs
marina
are allowed in
closes.
the park.
When the marina closes is when we allow dogs off leash.
right.
Or you can say the dogs can't be off leash
That'd be
until it's
November
after
10th
December the
then, right?
1st.
November 10th,
10th or the 15th?
something like November 10th or November, that's when the marina closes.
I don't think they should let the dogs off leash if there are people in the park. If you've got kids playing in the park, why do you let your dog off?
You said kid, you said people in the park. That's the
Kids.
difference. Kids.
Or kids, or people. I mean, if your dog bites, don't you know that your dog bites?
Your dog takes a crap too, and you don't clean it up.
I clean it up.
No,
Don't look at
no,
me. I
I'm
am
not
a pooper
saying you.
scooper.
I'm not
I
saying
am a
you.
poop patrol.
No, I'm not
No
saying
poop
you,
and
but you
scoop
know what I
here.
mean. I mean, it's like, yeah, my dog don't bite, then
I'm
he
trying to say
turns around and bites somebody.
Okay,
you
the
know.
park is for all residents. It's not just for people who don't have a dog. We're complaining about the fact that over here that we have a residence, we're opening the park up to now these non-residents. Okay, well, a citizen pays their taxes. No one's using the facility. If they're willing to pay to clean it up in that very short time frame, why not consider that?
But we do have a dog park already specifically for
Man,
dogs.
if you have it is not a dog park that you can enable a dog to run in.
No.
That's a
not
foo-foo
dog
park.
No, people like their dogs to run.
Well, I think we don't have a consensus here.
No, it sounds like
And,
not. So I'm gonna take this back though with those recommendations and everything back to committee. And we'll
I think-
discuss it some more at our
Right, yeah,
next meeting.
okay.
But-
If
but-
you're not gonna put the ban in place until next fall anyway,
Yeah,
so
it
we
wouldn't
have
be,
some time.
but, it would be before, we'll figure something out, then we'll get back to you.
That
We've
sounds
got a lot
good.
of good input.
That sounds good,
I
Doug.
always have volunteers for. Or the chief can use it as a deterrent for
Somebody getting a ticket.
rehabilitation for some of these chronic
Somebody
parkers.
gets a ticket for parking.
Yeah.
Get the judge the sense of
You
a
don't get a
community
parking
service.
ticket, you get a
10
cleanup
hours of
ticket.
community service
We will,
at the park, at the dog.
we will discuss these further at our next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
All right?
Sure.
thanks, Doug.
That's all I have.
Harbor Committee, John? Thanks for being patient, a little longer meeting today.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, and everybody else here. Last night I walked the harbor from about 7:30 to 8:30, and we have 55 boats in the harbor. Tom is on top of it with compliance issues, so I'll leave that alone. He did state there are a few small balances remaining, and he's taking care of that. Currently, we have $219,000 committed to the park, the harbor, I'm sorry, for the harbor. We have 5 empty wells available, 2 35-footers and 3 40-footers. I think the sandbags are a great idea, looks really good. I think that was a good call to do that, to help preserve the wall, any breaching that might happen. That's about all I said to that. I think things are moving smoothly with people coming in. Just another note about harbor and parking. I think there was a perfect storm this Saturday that a lot of you probably don't realize. There was the yacht club had a boat show, and that was a big hit. So there was tons of vendors and people, and also there was a interstate high school regatta that was on Saturday that encompasses Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. And so there was about 10 schools. That was a match racing event, and that was all day. So that compounded with parents and coaches and officials in this parking issue. So that being said, there's going to be another parking issue, I predict, with the harbor in the end of July, because the yacht club's going to host U.S. National Opti Regatta, July 20 through 28. So you might want to put that on your radar and kind of figure out how to, because they're going to have at least 400 boats in that, times 2 parents per boat, times coaches, times sponsors, times coach. It's going to be another massive whole week.
They're gonna store some of their stuff in our park. They've actually asked us to open the fence up for that.
I can see for the,
Remember that, Mark?
yeah, it's going to be I mean,
We
This
we
is
told
a-
them
this
we'd
a-
do it for them, and they would replace it. It's just to store some trailers and things.
some, I mean,
Not all of them. They have a very confined area, but it's gonna have, yeah, we're
if you've ever been to one of these national regattas, it's
It's a big deal.
it's a big deal, and I've been to them before, and you can't even get your car nearby, let alone I mean, I went to the one in the Orange Bowl. I've been out east, and you got to go like to the high school and do all that. You got to set parameters right off the bat, because you're gonna I think.
Aren't they gonna use your high school?
Yeah, but I'm saying why waste good parking for trailers?
No, they're gonna use part of the grounds. They're gonna open the fence up. The real low area on our grass that's not ever utilized.
It's underwater now.
Just
Yeah,
for extra boats, you know, they have all the boats they bring out.
they're not getting our parking lot.
Well, I got you there, okay. I'm just saying, be prepared, it's gonna be a massive influx of,
Well, the Little League at least will be over.
yeah,
with
Little
their
League,
schedule.
Little League is, it's, Little League is not that big of a deal.
Turn Vernier into a parking lot.
Thank you, John.
So I'll go, I'm gonna start going over there like twice a week and keep an eye on things and.
Well, we appreciate your detailed
And if
report.
anybody, I was told Tom today, if anybody needs any help reorganizing in their well, just let me know and I'll help them do all that, so.
Okay. Thank you, John. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Just, amazing report. I saw your email today, John. So comprehensive, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Infrastructure report, Bob?
We had a meeting yesterday at Wayne County, talk about the seawall. The county is still admitting, they're saying they really don't know who owns the seawall, so we're back and forth. We take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There's going to be a meeting of the legal minds either end of this month or first of next week between Wayne County lawyers, farms, and the shores, along with the 2 city managers to work it out. We know that the county owns the seawall. So, and they're well aware of the situation, and it's getting worse and worse. Brett and I have taken a walk we take a ride, and even in the farms, this high water is just tearing it apart, just even exponentially. So I don't see any action this year for money, but hopefully Wayne County will own up to the wall and start taking some kind of action. But for them to deny it again, it's just unheard of.
It's disheartening to hear they had 2 lawyers there at that meeting, and, you know, contesting liability already, right out at the onset.
But the meeting we had before that, the city engineer, the county engineer says, it's county's there, that's county seawall. He said that very loud and clear, and everybody knows that. It's their roadway, their seawall, except the 2 portions that belong to private property. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll get something going, but I just caution runners and people with dogs, you know, watch where you're going down there. There's some holes you put a car into.
I saw some young boys, they just jumped in the water, right there at Woodland Shore and Lake Shore, and they
Yeah,
just
well,
jumped
they're
in.
doing that all over.
So,
Because the water is about 6 or 7 foot deep in a lot of spots now.
at the
That's how high
wall?
the water is. It used to be like 3 or 4 foot, now it's 6, 7 foot. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks, Bob. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Bob and Brett and I were at that meeting, and I basically became really frustrated with the double talk that the attorney representing the county was giving, and I finally just said that, you know, we've been going around in circles with them for over a year about this, and we're no further ahead. And that, you know, both cities have gone on record with unanimous resolutions saying that this is an emergency, and that based on the photographs, you can see that there are sinkholes all along the property between the curb and the seawall. And to think that they just stop at the curb is absurd, and that eventually there will be a sinkhole, and if we lose a family in a car as a result of their negligence, and I want them to know that it's on the record and that we're going to hold them liable for it. And I said, right now, if there's a person that's walking along that area and they trip over, you know, something they can't see because the terrain is so bad now, and hit their head and end up in the lake and drown, that's an issue too. I mean, we almost have to consider, I think, you know, putting some kind of like do not cross tape up along that area to just keep people away from the water, because seriously, someone's gonna get hurt, or we're gonna lose somebody over the way that this thing is being handled. And, you know, I'm of the thought, and I went on the record saying this, personally, I would like to just see both cities float a bond, build the thing, and then sue the county for it. Because we could get it done in half of the time that it's gonna take for them to even admit that it's their responsibility.
Okay. Well, thanks, Matt. Brett, Improvement Foundation?
Good evening, council.
We got a
Mayor.
record meeting tonight.
Yeah, it's a lively meeting, isn't it? A couple quick things. The tot lot, as you're aware, is pretty much underwater, literally. I spoke with the project coordinator, a gentleman named Wayne. He wanted to start this week, but with the mud issue and the potential rain, I decided to hold him off till after the holiday instead of making the park a muddy mess. So that's still in the works. There was a little issue earlier about our fundraiser that was just brought up this year. Our first venture into this, we raised $2,700. We sold 27 tickets. We auctioned off, or raffled off rather, a parking lot sign which allowed only a certain family to park there. And the winner in the audience, Mr. Seago here and his family. And the street sign for the new street leading into the parkway was won by Mr. Dan Conrad. I don't know the gentleman, but I believe he's been informed also. A few minutes ago, I stepped out in the hallway and spoke to a couple of residents, reminding them of the mission of the foundation, our generosity that the foundation has given us, and we're here on behalf of the city itself. And I want to thank Mr. Seeley for opening up his mouth earlier and coming to our defense early in the meeting. So we had a little discussion in the hallway, and I gently reminded them of the 2 trees that they both received compliments of the foundation. So they kind of take a step back. So any other questions or comments from the council? I'm more than happy to talk to you and answer your questions.
Thanks, Brett, for all you do.
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian, legal?
I'll go backwards in listing here. We are indeed in the process of arranging a meeting with the city manager, Grosse Pointe City Attorney, who happens to be my former law partner, and Wayne County representatives to discuss the seawall repair responsibility and costs. Again, like Bob Brett just said, I don't buy that saying it's not a problem. It's not the problem. The devil's in the details on this sort of thing. We're going to have to dig into the copies of title and that sort of thing. But, and for that reason, we want to be prepared to public law. So that'll be scheduled. It's more likely to occur mid-June, but that's in process. On D-plans, we had a pretty busy month with D-plans. We reviewed the report from the city engineer, commented on that. Reviewed the draft city planner report, commented on that. We attended a meeting of all of the parties, including the property owner and property owner's engineers and city engineer, to discuss their preliminary plat, final submission, and the plat tonight, and planning commission meeting members. We prepared some comments on the draft subdivision restriction documents that were provided by the developer. That was a planning commission requirement. We also reviewed and provided comment on the draft stormwater business agreement that was prepared by council to the developer. And then we attended the planning commission meeting, and we assisted the planning commission members in preparing and circulating and then finally, on general municipal matters, we conducted a review still in the process of preparing comments on a draft of a dispatch and lockup agreement that may be entered into between the city and Grosse Pointe Woods. We received input from the city manager on that. We received input from yourself, Mr. Mayor, on that, and also from the Public Service Department. And that's in process. We consulted with the city regarding nuisance enforcement matters. We reviewed some of the city's ordinances, particularly the nuisance ordinance. City some advice on the thing we recently made. As Chief Schulte pointed out, we reviewed and made some amendments to a draft MedStar ambulance service mutual aid agreement, which I understand is now in place. And we conducted a review of a short-term rental housing bill in the Michigan House of Representatives. That was information that was forwarded to us by the city. We also consulted with the city regarding sanitary sewer overflow matters, problems that took place some weeks ago. And then finally, we consulted with the city regarding pension plan, trustee, fiduciary insurance coverage matters.
Okay, good report, Brian. Any questions for Brian? If not, Mark, your report?
Well, we did drive the new entrance this evening because we had to park over there with all the Little League kids, etc. Speaking, I shouldn't bring this up, but I do want to say, at our next meeting, you will see the special shadow boxes for the Wood Shores Little League commemorating their
good
visits to
Williamsport?
Williamsport.
Williamsport, I think I was gonna say Shreveport, but it's Williamsport, in 2013, 2017, and 2018. One thing about Deeplands, I'm just gonna go through these quickly. The contractor or the developer has to file with our engineers and has done so last week. And we've reviewed them. The engineers have to review them for the city to sign some technical minor corrections to that. So that process will be underway. These are for their permits with the state. 2 permits are required on the sewer side, 2 permits on the water side. So that's underway. We received the engineers' reports today. We had a Conference of Eastern Wayne meeting. We talked about the PEG fees, and we'll be doing, this is in keeping with the mayor-manager's meeting a couple of months ago. We may send an RFP out to the schools. Library doesn't seem to be interested, and certainly the War Memorial, we received their response. I think each member of council got one of those. We will take their tour and look at it. We're also undertaking a radio system review because it looks like, and this came up at the joint budget session, that we could eliminate our participation with the farms where there's one person that's retired, and I don't mean this to be negative, but there's one person that used to repair radios, and the state does it for like $75 a radio. So it could be a substantial savings over what we're currently paying. One other thing we learned, whatever Next Gen 911 is, what I think that is, and this came up, Bruce, I know in our discussion at the Finance Committee about going to the dispatch in the woods, that they can track your cell phone, and we just got some information on this today. There's the state has approved one particular vendor to provide this statewide, and the Conference of Eastern Wayne has agreed to participate in this. So very shortly, and I don't know how that is, probably within the next year, we'll have where your cell phone will automatically be tracked through dispatch if there's an emergency.
But you won't have text to 911 capability that will come up on your screen. You'll not have text to 911 capability. You didn't.
Grosse Points currently have that.
Right, and the Woods didn't buy it.
It's very expensive.
The Woods didn't buy it.
I don't think anybody bought it, but I'm not sure, I haven't read what this provides in terms of that, but I'll send it to you
To
everyone.
answer your question, the dispatch consortiums that have like multiple county type dispatch or state ones, they use it. It's extremely expensive. However, there's a possibility for a grant that they're making available, so they're making in addition to it down the road.
Right, but we're not going to have it.
We're not going to have it to start, no.
I attended the DAAA, the Detroit Area Agency on Aging annual meeting. I'll send council copies of the annual report. It's a $78 million program that has grown from like 7 or 8 million 30 years ago. I had a meeting with Robert Kramer as the Deputy Director of SMART in terms of bus services here and some other things that they're exploring. And as everyone knows, the pool opens this Friday at 4 p.m. And just a preview, at our June meeting on June 18th, we'll be dedicating the historical marker, which is here, weighs a ton. I think all the spellings are correct. That was checked a couple times. And we're asking council to come at 6 p.m. And there will be a representative from the State Historical Society along with the Grosse Pointe Historical Society will also be here for it. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Mark?
What date was the sign?
Tuesday, June 18th. It's just in advance of the June council meeting.
Good report, Mark. No old business, new business.
I have, actually, for the old business, I didn't know where this fit in. The home that's being built on the corner of Lake Shore and Oxford, I know that when they originally came to us, we gave them a timeline It doesn't seem to be any progress made on that home. What, does anybody remember what the timeline was that that
I'll look that up.
home was supposed to be?
20 months.
26, I think it was 26 months, Gina.
Did we give them 26?
We gave them an extension, I know, because of the slate roof.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it was, they agreed it was 26 months. I think it was, because he wanted 3 years, and we said we left.
Right.
And we, I think that was the number, what it was. They had
Okay,
3.
but it's been over a year now, and it just doesn't seem that progress is.
Doing the roof.
Yeah, there was actually work done today. I saw people up on the scaffolding stuff for the first time in a while.
Okay, new business, community block grant program year.
Yeah, Tim Colleen, I think, appeared before council a couple of months ago to talk about this. We're now participating with all of the Grosse Points and Harper Woods except for Grosse Pointe City, who's finishing up their curb cut program. We'll be designating our 20,000, which is $3,000 more than we've got in the past few years, to go a portion to the PATS program, which we've always provided them our community credits, municipal credits, and as well as to help subsidize the programs that the Helm provides as our joint senior center. The second part is the way the program is structured. Every 5 years, if you've applied for a large grant under their pool of special money, if you haven't gotten it, you'll get it in the 5th year. So we're also asking council to approve an application that all of the Grosse Points, including Grosse Pointe City, as well as Harper Woods, are participating in, that would allow the Helm to build out a lower level and maybe some other improvements there. The third component of this is we have participated in a housing rehab program. Originally, that was done by, in the old days, by SOC. There was actually a home in Grosse Pointe Shores renovated with special funds that were provided by the Wayne County Block Grant Program. The county has taken over that program. We'll be administering it directly ourselves. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but that simply.
Didn't that grant give us the full circle money?
It did, for a small portion.
Like 13,000 or something?
I think it was like 7.
Yeah, I thought that was going to full
That's how
circle
we
to
help
cover.
subsidize the concession stand?
Yes.
So we're not gonna get that anymore?
No. Under this, we're required to be part of a joint process with the other Grosse Points and except for the Grosse Pointe City.
So we're going to then fund the full
Those funds
circle?
are contained in the existing budget, yes.
So that's
For
about
the
18,
part-time people.
about 18,000 a year, I think it is.
I'll check that to make sure. I don't think it was that high, but.
Not that high.
Yeah, I remember that was tied in with the concession stand.
This CD, this is the one that Kylene came and said,
yep,
okay, we got $5 million to distribute, and the SG&A, the administrative cost the county charges is $3 million. Nice work if you can get
That
it.
was the good deal, yeah.
Typical, but they can't afford a seawall.
No.
Mark, do we know why Grosse Pointe City's not participating?
Yeah, they're finishing up their curb cut program, but they will, I believe they will participate next year.
Okay.
There was a study done by the feds, about consolidating the money and addressing more money going back to stressed areas.
See, but you just said it, you said
Highland
it,
Park, Hamtramck, Ecorse, River
but
Rouge.
you said it, that's an oxymoron. Study federal government.
Yeah.
Those two.
You're correct.
I sat and listened to that for 2.5 hours one night.
It's like reasonable.
It didn't make any sense.
You're a better man than I am.
600-page document in front of us.
Yeah, Bob usually goes as a representative from the east side to the advisory council, I think that's what it's called,
Yeah, advisory council, yeah.
on the Block Grant Program.
They're such idiots.
And Mark, we don't have any look-back liability to the
No.
county for any other jurisdiction that they fund.
Nope.
It's only
absolutely
within
not.
the money here.
Yes.
Well,
I make a motion to approve the 3 grant application.
So moved.
any further discussion? Tina's loud, and I need to take a vote without her.
You can vote afterwards.
Well, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll invite her to to vote after. The Wi-Fi contract?
Yeah, this is a place that we have funds in the existing budget for this program. This is reigns all over. I know this is something we tried to do the last couple of years. We found a local vendor who lives here. There's some unique things that he would provide. We have an arrangement with whatever antenna he needs. The yacht club is going to let us do that at no cost. I think it has got to go on the corner of their ballroom. Our share to do this is $17,000. He's kicking in another $15,000 or $16,000 himself. We'll write him the tax letter, whatever that's worth for him. And as I said, it's in the existing budget, and this is something I think the Parks and the Harbor Committee had talked about doing this.
And the monthly fee is what, 600?
Yes.
And the fee would be from what, May till September 30th?
We would put it on, yeah, probably May through the end of September, and he can actually shut it off.
But that's the loop only, not the internet, right? The 600? I'm looking here at the,
Say that again, Ted, I'm sorry.
it's the loop only, not the internet. So it's not dedicated internet access. The monthly charge, is that right?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
looking at page 2 here at the bottom.
Question. This would provide the service, and then he would shut it off basically as the park closes after Labor Day.
Because it says minimum 24-month term, install waived in on a 36-month term. Internet connections are carrier grade. But on what I'm looking at, it says it's not dedicated internet access.
I'm not sure I understand dedicated internet access.
Well, the loop, would that be just like,
No, we would not pay the 600 after that period of time.
oh, we would not?
No, that's something that when we were dealing with the yacht club and with another vendor, we'd have to pay the monthly costs all year. But this can be shut off so that we would not pay the 600 per month,
Okay.
the non-time.
Okay.
So we'd have 5 months, $3,000.
Yeah.
So we got
Is this something that's coming from the residents that want this so bad?
Yeah, we've had a lot of requests for it. I know a lot of them have not come to the Parks Committee, but it's something that's been kicked around. The other Grosse Points have this in their park.
Get it.
Well, you know,
I know it was under discussion at the April 18th meeting, do we do it or do we not do it to save money?
Those are
So,
the budget.
Well,
That's why I had Mark move this to this item right now, so you have this discussion, exactly what we're doing.
Right.
Do you want to spend the dough?
Right.
Now, exactly, I agree. That's where it's at. And you got a contribution.
A lot of money to spend.
Well, it's a question, one, Tina's been pretty adamant. I mean, she's gotten a lot
Oh, I
of
know
feedback from
Tina
her
has, yeah.
contemporaries about wanting access.
Yeah.
I think the marina people who sit on their boats want to have
It's a movie.
want to watch a movie or whatever. I don't know if this is going to be able to stream, if it's that good a service.
but we're going to start at that level, and if we can reduce it, and if it's going to, if all the use is going to be taken up, we need to check on that.
Well,
Bring a report.
then I would make a suggestion, if that happens, if you use all the bandwidth up like that, then you go to when you have a boat well, you sign up and you want, you have your base rate, then you want the, like, it's like when you go to the hotel, we'll give you the Wi-Fi in the lobby,
Yeah.
but if you want it in your room, it's another this much, and if you really want it to work, then it's this much. I mean, I would charge for that. Let people have that choice, a la carte. But if you want to provide basic across the park, I think it's, we're of the generation where we don't think it's that big of a deal, but everyone else takes it for granted.
Yeah, but you already got it on your phone, right now, today. You don't have Wi-Fi out there, you can get everything on your phone. We're gonna make
You
sure
may not
you
have an
got
unlimited
Wi-Fi.
data plan.
And the yacht club won't share with
If
us?
you don't have
We
an
can't
unlimited data plan, you're
share
probably
with
not
them?
streaming movies either.
Yeah, their price to bring in reasonable service was $105,000, which was not reasonable.
But if you're on a boat and you want to be able to watch a movie, this is the only way you're going to be able to do it.
And link to your phone too, and you can use your phone as a hotspot. Get a big phone.
What's the link?
No, you can use your phone as a hotspot.
Well, it's not a contract, it's a purchase agreement, right? I mean, it doesn't, there's no legal language here in what I'm looking at. There's no
I
contract.
think
It's,
we should
So
save
what I'm
the
getting at
money.
is that there's no term we're agreeing to. So if the service is terrible, we could
We can cut
cancel.
it, we can cancel it. I think there might be a 30-day notice.
well, the summary is we have paid
But we own
seven,
the
Yeah, he's
equipment.
gotta pay $17,000.
and then a monthly fee for
But
4
we
to
would own
5
the
months.
equipment afterwards.
Yeah, then we could find a new vendor if we had to.
So it seems like a very low risk for us.
And we got half of it by a resident, right, who's willing to come forward.
I move that we accept the proposal, proceed with the purchase order.
Well, our share is 17 or half of 17?
17.
17.
Price was approximately.
Anyone want to second my motion?
I second Mr. Seeley's motion.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? And again, we have, again, apparently no written contract, so we're not legally bound. There's no continuation. Again, we just lose the initial installation. And we're committed for 5 to 6 months at $600 a month, so it's $3,000 for the first year after installation. And we could revisit it. Okay, all those in favor?
Wait, when are you gonna stop and start it? You know, because some people, if they're in the
We'll put
park.
it on once it's installed, and then this year will be less than the 5 months we would normally do from Memorial Day through, actually, we would probably do like 4 or 5 months.
Why don't you just run it the marine, why don't you run it the harbor hour, the harbor schedule?
Yeah. From when it opens to when it closes.
do that.
Yeah.
That's easy to follow.
600 a month, so that's November 10th, I think. So maybe get a
7 months.
proration.
7 months.
7 months.
That's $4,200. 17,000.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
any other comments from? Again, I'm looking at the underlying documentation. There's no contract here. It's just a unit price showing 17,510.70 cents. And it's not a dedicated line, but, well, let's vote on it.
But it's on your thing that it's not to exceed that much for any 17 grand in.
No, then he's gonna.
Right, not to do that, but the bill is already 17,500, so he's already gone over by over $500 when we said no higher than 17. So,
No, our share is 17,000 for the installation.
Right.
And then the monthly cost would be on top of that. You are correct.
So this page 106
it's
is,
17,500.
will be adjusted down to 17.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Me.
Okay, 6 to 1.
2.
For 6, 5-2?
Me,
Doug.
5, okay.
the baseball.
The baseball
Okay.
dog lover.
All right, the next item is the ARC pool usage. Again, I'm looking at, I mean, it's a fine program. I've been there during the time I've seen it. The only concern I had is it's the peak time, June 17th to August 16th. The last 2 weeks of August, there's no one at the pool. Early August and July, the pools gets the highest usage. I'd like to consider granting it on an annual basis, but asking them to alternate with Grosse Pointe Woods.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they're based in Harper Woods, and they provide a great service. It's just that they have 12 kids with supervision and with parents and whatnot. We're talking 30 to 40 people in the pool.
And how many, I don't know what this program is.
It said groups of 12, so how many groups are there?
What is this? What are we doing?
Well,
These are
last year.
Challenged children that come to swim with their caregivers and family
How often?
during the week.
No, Tuesdays and
Yeah.
Thursdays.
Thursday,
1 to 3.
It's,
That's what it says in the.
here we go, every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. And there'd be groups of 12 special needs children accompanied by staff and volunteers. So what does that mean in numbers?
That's dead times during the week.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm talking about, it says groups of 12. Is that 100 groups or is it one? I don't know.
When Kay mentioned it to us, I thought it was just one group.
Right. There's not that many groups of kids.
I just don't know. I mean, it's very ambiguous
Good
and
question, I don't know the answer.
They try not to interfere with the lapse loans.
what I'm getting at is they're kind of leaving it open end and I don't want it to just turn into like, you know, go ahead, bring your cousin because we've got, you know,
I
the.
think they do.
Well,
We've
that's,
been doing this for so many years, right?
I know, I just think I'd like some clarification as to like how many actual special need kid groups are there? Is it 36 kids? And then when it says by staff and volunteers, what does that mean? And do the staff and volunteers get in the pool and swim with the kids too? So how
It's
many?
virtually one-on-one with the supervision.
So don't you think it's reasonable to just ask what that number is?
I don't think that's a problem.
I mean, I'm not opposed to the program. I think it's wonderful, but, you know, if we got 100 kids showing up with their staff, that's a lot of people.
I've seen it in action. It's a good program. I mean, it's dealing with children that really enjoy it.
Of course.
It does add a lot of congestion to the pool. I mean, when I was there was about 35 people, including the children, the special needs children. So, parents are there because they want to see their son or daughter. The program itself has volunteers and so, but what I'd like to do is maybe do it 1 year and then let Girls Point Woods do it the next, and come back to us.
Are you sure they don't ask for it over there?
I don't think they do.
So
I don't think so.
they're closer to come here, from what they've
Maybe
said.
someone's doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so they're, you know what I mean? It's probably worth looking at.
We'll get some more information.
You're gonna pick a pool, go to the woods, it's bigger.
Well, that, I
You
know.
what
that-
else they got there? Parking.
Yeah,
Well, and they got a slide and yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's
slide, I
true.
don't know.
Slide.
They don't use the slide anymore.
Oh, they don't?
They don't?
So
Only
if it's
when,
1-to-1 and we have 2 groups, you're looking at 48 people.
That's what that thing.
That's just based on this description. So we should probably find
Doug,
out
what,
what the numbers
what
are.
the, what is
George,
it?
do you know if the Woods does this program?
Well, they need their, when are they gonna,
Well, I know the pool opens up Friday, but they want to do this on June 17th, which is our next council meeting. Or no,
Well, it's
June
from-
18th.
From June 17th through August 16th, so every Tuesday and Thursday in between that, from 1 to 3, right?
Well, maybe we should table this then to the June meeting,
Okay.
because I hate to be, I'd just like to know the population of the, I mean, it's a great program, I just don't want it to,
What's the date of the June meeting?
June 18th.
So do you want to just give them approval to come on the 17th so that we don't, and then we can take it up on the 18th? That way we're not, I don't want to be the Grinch either, you know? I mean, you know? So I'd like to move that we approve them attending on June 17th and then review the entire summer program
Okay,
on the 18th.
that's
meeting.
fair enough,
Numbers with.
Yeah.
That's fine.
accounts.
because by then maybe we'll have
Have
a
a
park
second?
director too.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And park manager position. We've had a lot of discussion about this. I see Harry back there looking at the time, but, Harry, we've wanted to have a park director for a long time. And we, you know, I think what's given us some hesitation lately, the fact that money was tight and we weren't sure how to structure it. It was supposed to be a job that would be paid hourly. We were guessing at $25 an hour, 1,000 hours, be $25,000, rounded up maybe for, you know, that was my vision. I think that was your vision also for a park director. Somebody,
Ted, you can't do that, you got, if Harry's gonna talk, he's gotta
Okay.
come up to the podium.
well, no, that's unfair. I just, I know Harry's talked to me about a park manager, park director. So, Mark, have you identified anybody? You've interviewed a
Yes,
few?
Joe Cipriano, Doug wasn't available, for the Parks Committee, and I, the chief, and Kay Drake interviewed, 2 candidates. We had 8 people, I think it was 8, apply. A couple of them were not sufficient. We took the best 2 people to talk to, and we think we had a unanimous choice of the most successful candidate. I'll be happy to pass out her curriculum, or vitae, if that's the right word, or resume, and she ran the program at the Hunt Club for several years. She's the coach, has coached for both men's and women's at Grosse Pointe North. Kay knows her, she came highly recommended, very enthusiastic. Turns out she's a Grosse Pointe resident, lives in the woods. Each of us on the committee know someone connected with her. Her dad went to school with the chief. I knew her uncle, who was one of the city attorneys for a while in St. Clair Shores. Local person, very enthusiastic. Again, both candidates were fine. One was just spectacular, in our opinion. And I brought up things at the meeting, came prepared, and we had planned to, originally this would have started earlier. There'd been a lot of discussion about this. We wanted to put together the job description with the time frame and things like that. Happy to answer any questions. I'll be happy to pass out who we think is the best person. So you'd have her resume and background.
This job kind of overlaps Kay Drake in terms of overseeing swim lessons and
Who would be in charge, Kay Drake or the park director?
Right now, Kay will be in charge of the pool. I think it is anticipated this is going to be Kay's last season, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And we have somebody lined up who has worked with Kay, who is a local resident here. The daughter of somebody who was the parks director in the past.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she's going to be good. Kay also thought these two would work well together.
I had a chance to talk to Joe a little bit about the interview process, and again, he totally amplified the comments that you made as well. And I think the one thing that I just want clarification on, when we originally talked about this at the Finance Committee meeting, I think back in February or March, the chief had basically given an outline of what he was hoping for, so he could get some relief, and we were all, I think, on board with the whole concept that it'd be a position from April 15th to November 15th. And we were just throwing around numbers and saying, well, if we got somebody for about $25 an hour and we figured out their schedule, they could have flexible schedule type of things, so that when there's lighter days in the park, they wouldn't be scheduled for a lot of time, and then on the weekends where there's more of a demand, they would work more hours. But ultimately, we would work it out so that they would be at 25 an hour, and we thought at 9 months that was going to come in somewhere between 30 and 35,000 a year. And then I think that the number of $50,000 a year was suggested maybe by Rhonda or Bruce to say, hey, look, just to be on the safe side, we'd rather overestimate it and then come in under, and that got plugged in. So I just want to make sure that we're not extending an offer for those kind of dollars, that there's an understanding that we kind of stay in the framework of what was originally discussed.
Yeah, the 50,000, 40 to 50,000 was talked about because of it's based Social Security and some other.
Right.
Some of those this person is not be a benefited person per se.
Right.
But that's going to, we'll certainly, we've made it to both candidates and told them that this is on the agenda for this evening. We'd be in contact with them afterwards.
Right.
For council.
But money hasn't been discussed and an offer hasn't been extended?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then we can't really vote on this if we don't know what Kay is going to do.
Well, I think that's kind of why I wanted to just talk about what the parameters and understanding was about where we were from an actual cost standpoint. And
So there's going to be no benefits to this employee?
Other than at this point, no. The way this was structured.
No deferred comp, no
Non-exempt.
no health savings account.
Social Security,
no
employer
COLA, no
Social Security.
longevity.
Yep. You're correct.
Hourly rate,
And that's the way we would present.
And they're gonna punch a time clock?
No, they'll, no
I mean,
different than K, but
And they're gonna report to you?
they will report here through, for certain things for the chief, like we had anticipated and talked about, you know, they'd be involved in training, of gate guards and supervision and scheduling and.
But they're a direct report to you.
Mhm.
And so that's part of your,
So would she be filling out timesheets and you guys will come up with a flex schedule based on our usage and demand?
Yeah, pretty much like K.
Because, you know, obviously on the nights of swim meets, she's gonna have to work that night, but,
Yeah.
you know.
And the other activities that I
and
have.
Every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3.
and you're proposing $25 an hour, is that what you're proposing?
Um,
A guaranteed minimum or maximum number of hours?
yeah.
Well, I would say like a maximum of 1,000. I mean, I know the parents. I know the dad's a friend of mine. So.
Oh, I know her. I'm just unclear why we're bringing this up when we gotta talk money. How much are you
Well,
saying,
we've
25?
approved 50 in the budget. So the money is budgeted. Now we gotta just basically agree on what kind of an offer we're gonna extend, or at least have.
You gotta
have an
agree on two
understanding.
things. Number one, it's not in the current year's budget. So if we're gonna make it, well, we are amending the budget in June. If you wanna get this person on board before July the 1st, which obviously you do. So we gotta, you know, so we gotta make that decision, which we can do. That's not a problem. We can amend the budget to do that. It's not a roadblock. Then number two is you gotta pick how many hours you wanna spend. That's really what it is. And if we agree, and you gotta agree, are we gonna pay 25 an hour, 27.50, 20 to start? I don't know. We shouldn't be involved in those kind of details. Okay, we're not the compensation directors. We're the city council.
Right.
We don't micromanage offers of employment, especially
Well-
for someone who's not a direct hire. If they're a direct report to us, if you read the charter specifically says the city manager has that authority. We're not supposed to do it.
But Bruce, we've never approved anybody before. Nobody
Well, I
the
know
chief
we're
hires. I
approving
mean,
positions,
no individual
And we've got
person.
direction about how much money you guys want to spend. And I mean, 25, if you think you can get a
I
good.
think $25.
I'm not arguing with you, but I think 20, I'm just saying the process is, and you want to set a range of hours of 1,000 to 1,200 hours for the first, from July 1st or from, I don't know what day you want to get her on board, May 28th to whatever day you think that person's going to quit working. I don't know.
But do we have time clocks? I don't even know. Do we have time clocks?
DPW does. I don't know
Like,
if we do it.
do the lifeguards and kids like that, do they punch in at the park?
The lifeguards do.
So there's a time clock at the park?
Oh, so they could use that.
So we could just have everybody who works at the park punch a clock.
That's K.
Don't have it for the gate guards.
But I mean, we could in concept have Kay and everybody who works there punch a clock. So we could keep track of who's working what hours.
Well, we got people complaining we don't have somebody overseeing the park. That's our jewel.
Well, we've all, I think we've all, conceptually, we all
Right.
are on board at this point that we agree that we're going to have a park director.
I think if we, I think you're right, Bruce.
I think we're past that. Now we want to say, when do you guys want to bring them on board?
I think sooner than later.
What is this person's availability?
They have to provide a notice to the current employee, which is a family. She works for her family.
Yeah, that's her dad's law firm. So,
And
oh.
we, because the gatehouse, you know, is only now ready, there's savings that we had anticipated in that fund that would allow us to bring her on with.
We've got we got money to do this.
No, I'm not concerned about that. I think like,
when is she available? You didn't answer the question. Is it middle of June?
I think she has to provide a couple of 2 to 3 weeks.
so let's say it's June 15. We're talking about, even if it was 40 hours.
Sure.
We're talking less than 100 hours times $2,500.
I'm not arguing about the
Is it
money. I'm just saying, if
$2,500?
you guys want to do this, let's do it.
okay, so I move that we proceed with the hire, effective as soon as possible at a rate to not exceed $25 an hour.
With a maximum how many hours a year?
1,000.
1,500. Right? Because that's 9 months, right?
I was using 1,000.
July, August, September, October, November, December.
Only the employee will start on or about April 1st.
But that's next year.
So next year, so
I'm thinking this year for the
Yeah, so for
W-2.
this year, you don't want
And
15.
You got-
the ending date, chief?
I would say
November 15th.
November,
15th?
So from June 15th to November 15th,
Of this year.
yeah. So whatever that works out to at
8
40
months.
hours a week.
Plus the startup of next year, April 1st to
Right.
June period.
Yes.
We'll be
So
under that.
let's do it 1,500. Let's just put it out there and
Yeah.
let them manage the hours. Let's get, I agree,
I mean, 1,500 hours is 9 months, right?
40 hours.
so that makes it more expensive. Then we're in the $45,000 range.
But it's not to exceed. It doesn't mean they don't have to work it, Ted.
Well, I understand.
We don't have to come back to us and say, can you have another 5 hours this week?
Right, okay.
We expect them to be good stewards of those hours and do it accordingly. If they don't, then
Well, is she gonna have a set, I mean, are we giving her a set schedule? Like, I mean, is she gonna work 8 to 5, 8 to 4? Is she gonna come in early? Is she gonna like be opening the pool for yoga or whatever they do? I mean, what is this?
Okay, just for the record, 1,500 hours times $25 an hour, which would cover all the way through the start of next fiscal year on July 1st. That's 37.5.
Right. Plus Social
And
Security,
that's the
so.
money we
Social
were,
Security and taxes.
I think we're all on the same page, right?
let's,
I
maybe
think-
the motion, I second it. And if-
Chief, you had a question about this?
Just gonna discuss the starting date next year would be, because everything's done now.
Right, right. I mean, the summer's already kind of
We're
running.
gonna work that
Those-
out.
Who's gonna work that out?
Well, she would report directly to Mark.
This person will work weekends, probably have Mondays and Tuesdays off rather than, and work the rest of the schedule pretty much full-time.
40 hours.
The hours, yeah.
And it's as necessary. If there's an event,
Yeah, they'll be here for the event.
there's
Instead
a,
of getting into this thing where we're doing overtime and all of this kind of thing, can she work a flex schedule so that, like, if she's got to work the 4th of July, we say, work the 4th, but just take a couple of days off next week?
she's not gonna exceed 40 hours in any week, or
Right.
then we're subject to time and a half.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
I just
The
want
motion's made and
Yeah.
seconded, again, with the limitations that we discussed, and we can oversee this to some degree. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Me.
Okay, 6-1. Public comment? Any public comment?
Good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to do this to you, but I've been sitting there for a couple hours, so I had time to think about what I wanted to mention. I pulled into the new driveway over here and spent some time looking at it, and I think as some of you know, I've tried to pay some attention to what's going on. And I've really got some grave reservations about how we're handling this already. And Chief, this is no reflection on you. I know you've been charged with trying to make that as safe as you can, but we did hear even from Brett before he left that there are some concerns, and we're going to have to figure out what's going on here. And I'd just like to say, in the meantime, we don't want any kids getting run over. You know, I looked, and the bar is up. It's the first time I've seen it up. The lights are on, so you can tell it's up. It's not a mystery that the arm is up. And I think that's a signal to people that the coast is clear, you can drive. Now, maybe there's a stop sign, maybe there isn't, but now we're talking about a lot of people parking in that lot that may or may not be residents of Grosse Pointe Shores that understand what the routine is. The door's on backwards, I agree with that. I mean, I was looking at that and saying, well, the guy's got to come out, walk around the door. I don't think we can take any chances. I mean, the whole premise of building the gatehouse was to protect the kids. And at the end of the day, when's it going to be manned? What are they going to do? If the guy goes to the restroom, do they leave the gate up? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions. And supposedly, we're only going to have it manned for part of the year. Is that your understanding, Ted? That
That's not my understanding.
it's always going to be manned, no matter what, year-round?
Maybe the primary,
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when we have one park ranger working, he has to work the inside gate because he has other functions within the park related to the marina, to the picnic areas, driving seniors to the picnics. So, yes, it will be.
When are you
vacant.
gonna have just one gate man?
Well, we're trying to be efficient with our allocation of manpower, but on afternoon, late in the afternoon, on the midnight shift, there certainly is no reason to have a person there.
So that gate arm's gonna be open?
They'll be checking passes at the inside gate, yes.
So people could still drive in and park, what they've been doing for the last 50 years, and that's why We tried to stop this.
Let me just say this, if it's the council's wishes that we staff that on days and afternoons, I'll be more than happy to try and do it. But it's going to be double people, all the day shifts and all the night shifts.
The pass won't, we don't have the capability to swipe the pass, the arm up and down. Why? Why do we not have that?
Not the way it was engineered.
And I guess that's my point, and I would trust the lives of my children to Chief. I mean, there's no question, he was handed something and said, make this work. And I don't think it's as simple as we've decided we're gonna make it, and I would urge you to be careful. I mean, tonight, I looked and I thought, man, some kid comes riding his bike in there, somebody who doesn't know about Grosse Pointe Shores pulls in there because they're going to a soccer game or whatever's going on around here, 4th of July rock and roll concert, and there's going to be confusion. So I would urge you to pull out all the stops and make sure that that thing is beyond any question totally safe and that no kids are at risk. And just a comment on the park manager, I'm personally very pleased that you're doing that. We always had a park manager when we were spending a lot of time with our kids down here. I think that's the number one safety issue that you're addressing, is by having somebody there that's going to pay attention to what's actually going on in the parking lot and who's coming and who's going and what's happening out there. Kay can't be doing that when she's trying to manage the pool. So I think that was a monumental thing. It's been 8 years since we had a park manager. And I really commend you for finally taking the bull by the horns. But I hope we don't realize some tragedy with this gate over here. Thanks.
Thank you, Harry. Any more public comment? Yeah.
I'm tired, I know everyone is. I will be brief, addressing the dogs in the parks. We are boat owners as well as dog owners. We use the park, and I know there are people who do not pick up after their dogs. I tell them to do so. It is a privilege to use that park. Also, common sense tells you if there are children in the park, don't let your dog off the leash, period. That's common sense. Again, not everyone realizes that. So I would suggest, if you go back to the park committee, that hopefully we will continue to allow dogs into the park. It keeps the goose droppings down to a minimum. Our boat is Boatwell 11, and it's covered in goose poop. The dogs keep those geese out of there all year. And secondly, you know, we can have someone, if there's a child in the park, you don't let your dog off the leash, and the gate guard says, there's a child in the park, don't let your dog off the leash. And I agree with Mr. Bisbal, charge to clean up. You want to, you know, again, it's a privilege to let your dog in there, so pay a fee and have it cleaned up. I agree with you.
We will look at that.
Thanks.
Next meeting.
Okay,
Discuss it
some
about
good
that.
ideas, Donna. Any more public comment? If not, council comments, Bob,
I have nothing further.
Matt,
No.
Tina,
No.
Bruce?
Just want to thank everybody for getting the budget done, and I'm really proud of the fact that we are a Purple Heart City, because they recognize our veterans and keep them parking in the right spaces, and that would be even better.
Okay, and Doug, anything? Oh, Bob, I'm sorry. No.
Beautification has planting tomorrow and Thursday, and if it rains either one of those days, Friday is a rain out day, so come on and help us plant some flowers.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Believe it or not, summer's here. I think it's gonna be 82 degrees Thursday. Raining, but 82 degrees. The swim team has an ice cream social on Sunday, June 2nd at 6 o'clock. Stop at the pavilion and see the excitement for the new swim team. Mark, I'm real proud about the historic designation for the building. It's a beautiful Albert Kahn building. It's gonna be a nice dedication. I think it's a nice touch for our city. Thanks for getting that done. And last but not least, this is Memorial Day weekend. Monday's Memorial Day, and we should remember what it stands for. I just read an article about the last of the Doolittle Raiders, and he died at the age of 103, just 6 weeks ago. And they had an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about how this young man, you know, saw on the blackboard that dangerous mission, you know, volunteers needed. And he signed up not knowing what it was going to be about. Name was Lieutenant Richard Cole. And so he signed up for a mission and then was told they're going to take 15 B-25 land-based bombers, and fly it off the Hornet, the USS Hornet, a 500-foot runway, that a plane that normally needed 2,500 feet to take off was going to take off from a 500-foot runway on the USS Hornet. And then they were discovered by a Japanese fishing boat, and they had to embark 200 miles sooner. It became a suicide mission, and Doolittle said, anybody who wants to withdraw can withdraw. And, there's no shame, and everyone, all 80 men went forward. Many died during the mission, when they crashed. Out of the 25, or the bombers, only one didn't crash and flew into Russia. The other ones all crashed. He parachuted at 9,000 feet into darkness and landed in a tree, was essentially captured. He was in Japanese-occupied China, and he was basically captured. The Chinese snuck him out. Like 15 days later, he was reunited with the Lieutenant Doolittle, and but how lucky he was to survive. But most of the men did not. The ones that were captured were executed immediately, and very, very few survived. But he was the last of 80 of the Doolittle Raiders, and I think we need to reflect on that and think about that Monday on Memorial Day. So our next council meeting is June 18th, the dedication at 6 o'clock here. Please